During the night, a small vessel is moored at a dock while a few men engage in conversation with their superior. Numerous barrels are present, each serving as a container for a single deceased individual. It is noted that the fates of the deceased are determined in this manner, with some being placed into coffins and others into urns. The mafia leader asks about the total count of the corpses, and a subordinate confirms there are 33 in all. Consequently, the boss commands the group to complete the disposal process before the sun rises. While an unidentified individual reflects on who might have judged the value of his own life, the leader smokes a cigarette as his men pour chemicals into the barrels to dissolve the remains. The boss maintains a calm demeanor, eventually discarding his cigarette into the water. Once more, a person contemplates the nature of his past existence. Inside one of the barrels, one of the presumed dead appears to be alive, questioning if they are about to enter that dark space. Simultaneously, a security officer briefs his unit regarding a woman referred to as Snow White. The officer indicates her photograph, identifying her as their primary objective. A team member questions the alias, noting that she does not appear Caucasian, but rather like a typical Asian woman, and observes that she seems too frail to be a high-priority target. The leader, Kim Soo-yak, clarifies that neither race nor gender should be used to underestimate her, as she is exceptionally dangerous. The woman is revealed to be Anna Nanayama, the head of a Yakuza faction. Her moniker, Snow White, stems from her role as a major distributor of pure cocaine. She is expected to host a drug-related gathering at a hotel with light security following a meeting with various criminal groups. The team intends to use this moment to assassinate her to stop the domestic flow of illegal substances. Furthermore, she is notorious for the drugging and exploitation of innocent young women. The officer explains that because the operation must resemble an internal gang conflict, the use of firearms is prohibited. He remarks on the difficulty of the assignment, noting that his status as a top agent is the reason for his involvement. Although a teammate mockingly suggests their trust is limited to his role as leader, Soo-yak confidently asserts that the mission should be left to him. The protagonist subsequently enters the hotel, which is heavily guarded by Yakuza members. The guards are surprised by his presence and question how he gained access. He establishes contact with his team, signaling that Alpha is making his entrance. Suddenly, he unsheathes a large blade and charges at the Yakuza. The guards draw their own weapons, resulting in a close-quarters knife fight. Soo-yak kills the men one by one, starting by slitting the throat of the first attacker. During the struggle, Soo-yak recalls his briefing, which indicated that roughly 10 non-combatants and over 20 combatants would need to be dealt with. In response to an inquiry about the necessary manpower for the infiltration, Soo-yak states that only 3 agents, himself included, are required. His superior expresses confusion regarding this limited number. Soo-yak explains that the presence of 3 exits makes this arrangement unavoidable. He asserts that since this is an extermination mission, the total number of Yakuza present is irrelevant. Gripping a blood-stained knife, the protagonist declares that his brothers are unbeatable. One of his teammates remarks that the task is too simple, noting that he has already eliminated numerous Yakuza on his side of the entrance. The hero identifies himself as a black agent of the NIS, an elite survivor from a hellish past. Soo-yak admonishes his teammate to concentrate on the mission, to which the brother responds affirmatively. Soo-yak and his 2 partners advance toward the primary target. He informs the team that any other occupants will be intoxicated and notes that the room has only a single exit. He commands them to block this way out and eliminate everyone inside. Upon opening the door, he witnesses Snow White abusing a young woman, a sight that shocks all 3 agents. As they step into the room, they are stunned to discover that the other occupants are already deceased, with corpses scattered throughout the space. Soo-yak orders his men to locate the target after first securing and locking the entrance. Suddenly, a knock is heard at the door. They are startled to realize the voice belongs to Snow White, who announces that the entry is indeed closed and locked. Snow White holds the severed head of the young victim, contemplating whether to slaughter the agents. There is a reflection on the fate of those who believe themselves to be the strongest, but are now confronting death in the form of Snow White. She smiles at them and points at one of the brothers, flicking a minuscule object in his direction. Before he can identify it, the object pierces his forehead, killing him instantly. Simultaneously, she tosses the girl's severed head. The attack occurs with such speed that no one can move. The object penetrates the skull like a bullet, leaving the man dead in the blink of an eye. Enraged, the second brother charges at Snow White, ignoring Soo-yak's warning to halt due to the extraordinary nature of their adversary. Snow White hurls another identical object at the attacker, and Soo-yak observes a hole appear in his partner's head as the man collapses. Snow White mocks them, remarking that a gathering of insects is still nothing more than insects to her. She challenges the protagonist, inquiring about his next move. Initially consumed by anger, he draws his knife intending to strike, but he quickly realizes the need for composure, acknowledging that this entity surpasses his capabilities. He reflects that retreating is not an option. When she throws the tiny projectile at him again, he manages to evade it, and is surprised to discover that the weapon she is using is a human tooth. He observes that she is clutching a handful of teeth. She repeatedly hurls these dental projectiles at him, yet the protagonist utilizes his agility to continuously evade them. However, when he manages to close the distance, she seizes him by the face before he can strike and flings him a considerable distance away. Suyak finds it inconceivable that a woman could possess such strength and questions the nature of this power. Suddenly, she leaps into the air, clutching his knife, and lands directly on his knees, inflicting severe agony. While straddling him, she expresses a twisted fondness for him, stating that he heightens her excitement. She then drives the blade through his hand, rendering him utterly defenseless. Snow White remarks that his vulnerability increases her enjoyment. She twists the knife embedded in his hand, causing the hero to scream and question what sort of amusement she refers to. She gestures toward the corpses, explaining that the carnage and the act of taking lives for sport constitute her idea of fun. Suyak questions if this truly represents her definition of pleasure. Despite screaming in pain, he summons his strength to bite her neck, tearing away a chunk of flesh. Following this, he grabs a jagged shard of glass and impales her neck, resulting in massive blood loss. The protagonist feels a sense of triumph, believing he has finally slain her as she collapses motionless upon him. He believes his revenge is complete and that he is the sole survivor. In his thoughts, he apologizes to his brothers, noting that he will join them shortly. To his shock, however, she regains consciousness. Suyak screams, unable to comprehend how such a recovery is possible. Snow White commends him, noting that for a human, his bite was impressive. Terrified and panicking, Suyak questions what kind of entity she is. She advises him against trying to understand, deeming it futile. She mentions that he is the first person she has encountered capable of such an act, and that she had hoped he would succeed. She then drives the knife deeper into his hand, and the intense agony causes the protagonist to lose consciousness. Snow White remains seated on him, dismissing him as pathetic. At that moment, the surviving Yakuza members enter the room to verify her safety. She glances at them and instantly kills the first man by embedding a tooth in his skull. The remaining members stand in terrified silence. She commands them to dispose of the bodies and announces their return to Japan. Later, Suyak is found standing upright in a barrel, naked and coated in chemicals, gazing toward the sky. He reflects on the adage that the manner of death evaluates one's life. A Yakuza member observes him and questions his partner about the strange occurrence. The other expresses confusion, but their superior laughs, instructing them to look at the body. He assures them there is no cause for concern, as he is certain the man is dead. One subordinate speculates whether it is rigor mortis, admitting he has never witnessed such a phenomenon, and wonders about the intensity of the grudge required to result in such a rigid posture. The protagonist contemplates the consequences of refusing to succumb to death. The gang leader presses a lit cigarette against the man's neck, and commands his subordinates to hasten the burial so the victim can finally rest. Suyak reflects on the type of judgment that awaits him. Unexpectedly, the burn wound on his neck regenerates instantly, startling the boss. While the criminals express confusion, Suyak persists in his thoughts regarding the evaluation of his demise. The Yakuza leader questions whether the man has actually survived, but Suyak internally resolves that his true evaluation will only occur after he has exacted vengeance upon the tormentor. His mind drifts back to a memory in the hotel room with his two brothers, where they verify their statuses. Alpha reports that his position is clear, followed by Charlie. The order is given for all field operatives to converge on the primary objective, noting that the targets will be under the influence of narcotics. He instructs the team to seal the single exit and eliminate every individual inside. Subsequently, he finds himself standing isolated in a hallway, questioning where the others have vanished. Without warning, a hand covers his mouth from behind. He is seized by a colossal, monstrous entity resembling Snow White, possessing innumerable arms that grasp him tightly. The creature announces that he has succeeded. As the protagonist struggles to break free, she tells him he is welcome, laughing as she designates him as the Daywalker. Abruptly, Suyak awakens inside the barrel with sunlight hitting his face as the vessel traverses the ocean. He is bewildered by a sharp pain in his head. He realizes he is entirely naked and coated in blood, confused about his recent actions. To his shock, a survey of his surroundings reveals the numerous corpses of the Yakuza members. He questions the nature of the massacre and the identity of the perpetrator. A young man then addresses him by name, identifying himself as an agent from headquarters, and instructs Suyak to accompany them. During the subsequent car ride, Suyak asks about the events on the ship. The officer responds that the incident is currently under investigation. Noting that Suyak reportedly completed the mission, the officer asks if he feels fatigued. When Suyak replies that he is fine, the officer suggests he get some rest, citing the long duration of the trip ahead. As this suggestion is made, Suyak observes that the officer is wearing a gas mask. Simultaneously, a noxious gas begins to vent from the vehicle's air conditioning system. The hero questions the true nature of his escorts. Both individuals in the front seats are protected by masks as the protagonist starts to lose consciousness. One officer contacts the director to report that the specimen has been secured. On the receiving end, the director laughs, commending their work and ordering the transport of the subject to the laboratory. He also states that the dissection is to commence immediately. Standing near his desk, the director laughs maniacally, believing that he has finally acquired that thing. His thoughts briefly turn to Snow White. The transport vehicle soon arrives at headquarters. The director instructs the research team to assemble and promptly unload the subject, noting that there are numerous experiments waiting to be conducted. However, upon opening the vehicle's trunk, the researchers are terrified to discover the corpses of the two escort officers. While they stand in confusion, a massive tooth is suddenly launched from the car window, instantly killing one of the scientists. In the blink of an eye, the remaining researchers and agents begin to collapse one after another, each sustaining a fatal blow to the head. Witnessing the annihilation of his entire team, the director is bewildered, unable to comprehend how such an event could occur. The car doors open, and the protagonist steps out. Terrified by the sight of him, the director flees, shouting orders for all units to eliminate the target. Meanwhile, Suyak reloads his firearm. Moments later, a swarm of agents rushes toward him brandishing knives. He methodically shoots them in the head, causing them to fall one by one. One agent manages to close the distance and attempts a knife attack, but Suyak shoots him in the arm before delivering a fatal shot to the head. As more attackers approach, he evades them with ease, eliminating one agent, stabbing a second, and subsequently shooting a third. However, an agent positioned at a distance manages to shoot Suyak in the head. The shooter immediately reports to the director that the target has been neutralized. The surviving agents, now armed with guns, approach the body lying motionless on the ground. As they draw near, Suyak abruptly draws his weapon and instantly guns down two of them. The agent who fired the initial shot shouts in disbelief, insisting that the target was hit in the head and questioning why he is still alive and moving. The protagonist seizes the bewildered agent by the neck, ignoring his screams and pleas for mercy. After killing him, Suyak reflects on the fact that he and his team had devoted their lives to serving the country, contrasting this sacrifice with the sight of the director now fleeing and crying out for help. He recalls eliminating the two agents in the transport vehicle and discovering the director's message ordering his execution. He realizes that they were sacrificed for the director's personal ambition. Watching the man run away, he resolves to demonstrate exactly how vicious the abandoned dog can be. He exits the parking lot, leaving behind the bodies of countless agents he has just eliminated. Suyak reflects on the possibility that he has already died 2 or 3 times. Although he has no concept of the physiological changes occurring within his body, one thing remains certain. As an operative, his function is to gather intelligence and neutralize threats. The director pleads with him to remain calm, promising a full explanation of the circumstances and offering to assist with Suyak's next promotion. He implores him to lower his weapon. In response to these pleas, the protagonist shoots the director in the leg. The director continues to beg, asking for a brief moment to be heard. The hero retorts, ordering him to shut his mouth and answer the question at hand. Suyak demands to know exactly what has been done to him. The director attempts to frame the situation as a misunderstanding, urging Suyak to listen to his side. Suddenly, the hero shoots him in the other leg and commands him to cease the useless chatter. The director reveals that Suyak now possesses the ability to resurrect after death and heal rapidly, noting that some of Snow White's subordinates possessed the same trait. He explains that this technology was likely the reason her faction rose to the top of Japan's underworld despite being a new force, and admits they intended to acquire this technology for themselves. When Suyak questions why the other agents were sent, the director clarifies that previous attempts failed to yield information and resulted in death. Consequently, the plan was revised to exclude mediocre agents in favor of a reliable one, which is why Suyak was selected. The director adds that Snow White brought this technology when she entered Korea. He asserts that from this point forward, Soohyuk will not need to worry about injuries, even on dangerous missions. Acknowledging his hard work as a team leader, the director calls him a hero, but the protagonist responds by shooting him in the arm. The director screams, asking why he is being shot after having disclosed everything. Soohyuk questions the audacity of being called a hero when the plan was to use him as a test subject. He wonders if the director even understood the nature of the enemy. He reasons that if casualties were continuous, better intelligence should have been gathered. He concludes that they all died due to the director's greed and is certain his colleagues could have been saved. The director argues that even if the enemy had strange abilities, the Yakuza were still just people, insisting that he would not lose to mere humans. He questions if dealing with such threats isn't Soohyuk's job. He claims the agents died because they were on a suicide mission, and notes that they were awarded medals posthumously. He asks why Soohyuk is making a fuss and, in a fit of anger, insults him. Enraged, Soohyuk strikes the director's head with his gun, ordering him to stop speaking. He draws his knife, informing the director that he must now feel the pain that the agents experienced. He remarks on how dreadfully long the night feels as he advances toward the director. The director, on the verge of tears, implores him to wait. Abruptly, 4 vehicles pull up to the scene, and the occupants command Soohyuk to discard his weapon and surrender immediately. The director screams at his subordinates, demanding to know why their response took so long after he called them. 14 Special Forces commandos exit the vehicles and assume combat positions against Soohyuk. Recognizing the extreme danger, the protagonist realizes he must seek cover immediately and breaks into a run. The commandos open fire, striking him multiple times, causing him to collapse to the ground. The unit leader subsequently orders a ceasefire. The director taunts Soohyuk, stating that his arrogant demeanor has earned him this outcome. He declares that Soohyuk only needs to be bound for life to provide them with his blood willingly. The director muses that if Soohyuk can resurrect and heal, they should just keep attacking him. He asserts that whether it is Soohyuk or the Yakuza, superior firepower will ultimately overwhelm them. He laughs mockingly, telling Soohyuk that he has worked hard for nothing. Suddenly, the director hears a woman's voice. She looks down at them from the rooftop, inquiring if the man on the ground is Soohyuk. He identifies her as squad leader Ayaka. She corrects him, stating that she represents the very Yakuza he was just discussing. The director shouts for his men to kill her as well. She leaps behind the commandos, catching them unaware. As they turn to face her, she begins slicing through them one by one. After eliminating half the squad, she vaults back onto the roof. The commando leader orders his team to fire simultaneously. Moving with such speed that it astonishes the soldiers, she severs their bullets with her sword. With lightning velocity, she descends again to cut down the remaining team members, killing most of them in the blink of an eye. From a distance, a sniper fires a shot at her. She perceives the bullet's trajectory and slices it in half. The last 2 commandos converse in terror, questioning what kind of monster could not only block bullets but cut them down. With incredible speed, she lunges at them, killing the first one before cutting down the second. She then advances toward the director, wielding a sword in each hand. As she approaches him under the moonlight, her blades glisten. The director repeatedly screams that she is a monster. However, in an instant, she cleaves his head in 2. She stands before the protagonist, who is just regaining consciousness. She verifies if he is Soohyuk and informs him that Lady Anna has requested that he be brought to her. Still consumed by rage, the hero tells her to get lost and insults her with a derogatory slur. At this, the female Yakuza clarifies in a threatening tone that the instruction was not to invite him, but to deliver him to her. She launches a sudden attack on the hero, which he manages to block with his knife. She remarks that his ability to stop her strike is very impressive. Soohyun worries that he has lost an excessive amount of blood, realizing that the longer the conflict drags on, the more dire his situation becomes. At that moment, she launches another assault, causing him to question if his current course of action is the only option remaining. She strikes him once more with her dual swords, remarking that while he held out for a considerable time, this marks the end for him, all while maintaining her relentless offensive. Eventually, she impales his chest with her sword. After staring at the blade lodged within him, he seizes her hand, forcibly extracts the weapon from his chest, and retaliates with his knife. The force of the exchange causes both to fall away from each other, but he succeeds in severing her head. The protagonist believes that this time he has definitively decapitated his enemy. However, although he managed to take her head, she simultaneously succeeded in slicing off his arm. Despite the injury, he declares victory. He feels his consciousness fading, acknowledging that he is dying once again. Suddenly, the headless body of the attacker rises to its feet, and she comments that he is impressive. The hero is rendered speechless and terrified by this sight. He watches in silence as the headless body simply retrieves its head and places it back onto the neck, which bizarrely repairs itself. She then informs him that Lady Anna would find his resilience desirable. Suyok becomes anxious as he realizes his body is not responding. She stands upon his chest, resting her sword against him, and tells him he has done well. She adds that when he next awakes, he will be in the presence of Lady Anna. He stares at her in fear. She drives the sword into his chest and remains standing there, noting that he is still conscious despite his blood supply being severed, and warns him that he should return before it is too late. She places her hand on him, and unexpectedly, he manages to stand up. She advises him that struggling is pointless, yet Suyok attempts to punch her. In response, she severs his remaining hand, calling him foolish and warning that at this rate, all his limbs will be removed. However, she is stunned to witness his arm grow back instantly, allowing him to strike her with it. Shortly thereafter, his second arm regenerates, appearing significantly more muscular and powerful than before. With a single attack, he tears the skin from her arm. She realizes that he is regenerating at supernatural speed. He attacks her with incredible velocity, biting into her arms with such force that she is compelled to sever her own limbs to escape his grip. She regenerates her arms using her own powers, but she observes him still clutching her severed limb in his teeth like a wild animal. She realizes that if the fight continues this way, she risks losing everything. She leaps into the air to attack him, but is startled to see that his teeth have become large and razor-sharp as he unleashes a wolf-like howl. His physique expands so drastically that his shirt shreds apart. She wonders what kind of entity stands before her. Suddenly, a bullet strikes him in the head. As she attempts to comprehend the situation, several men appear, holding guns. From the group, a woman steps forward and invokes the Father in heaven, declaring that they are sending the two combatants to the afterlife. The female fighter currently engaged with the protagonist reacts with visible fear upon seeing this newcomer, while the men in the group curse at them. The newly arrived leader, a beautiful woman commanding soldiers, orders her troops to open fire on both individuals. Following her specific instructions to target the lower extremities, the soldiers begin shooting at their legs. Sustaining leg wounds, both the protagonist and his opponent collapse to the ground. She then signals her troops to cease fire before pointing directly at the protagonist and ordering them to burn him. The soldiers discharge arrows tethered to wires in his direction. The projectiles pierce his chest and arms, immediately delivering high-voltage electric shocks. Meanwhile, the female attacker notices the sun rising. As the rays touch her, her skin begins to burn. The leader of the armed unit asks if she finds the sensation painful, warning her that the fires of hell will be twice as intense. The one-armed combatant dismisses the threat, accusing the leader of making a scene and disparaging them as mere humans. In response, the leader warns her against underestimating humanity before stomping on her wrist, crushing and breaking it. The attacker screams in agony. The commander questions her coherence, insults her intelligence, and vows that she will die by her hand today, followed shortly by her associates. She then turns her attention to her own team, inquiring about the status of the protagonist. Her subordinates report that despite the assault, the target remains standing. She pauses, confused as to why the sunlight has no adverse effect on him. Seizing the distraction, the female killer decides this is her opportunity to escape, leaping away from the scene. The leader speculates on whether he has exhausted his blood reserves, yet remains puzzled by his resistance to the sun. As the leader considers giving chase, one of the gunmen expresses shock that the protagonist has not yet succumbed to his injuries. Suddenly, the hero lunges at one of the soldiers, but the female leader reacts swiftly, severing his arm with her sword. Recognizing that this entity poses a greater threat, she commands her team to retreat. She strikes him once more with her blade, but he blocks the attack with his remaining arm. She is amazed by his durability. His severed arm regenerates yet again. He attempts to punch her, though the blow fails to connect. Surprised by his capabilities, she expresses satisfaction that she did not kill him earlier. She then delivers a punch infused with magical energy. Flames erupt from her hand and blast completely through his chest. The force of the blow knocks him a significant distance away. She questions how an individual with such capabilities could remain undetected for so long, wondering where he has been hiding that they are only seeing him now. Amidst the surrounding smoke, she witnesses him feeding on the blood from the director's neck. The sight of him consuming blood in the heat of battle catches her off guard. Upon drinking the blood, his strength surges, and he glares at her with intense fury before letting out a deafening roar. The female commander decides that he must be eliminated immediately. She prepares for a decisive strike, gripping her sword with both hands as the blade begins to glow with magical fire. As she charges toward him, however, he suddenly collapses to the ground, losing consciousness due to exhaustion. The impact of his fall shatters the floor beneath him, leaving her confused by the abrupt end to the fight. Later, the protagonist hears a voice repeatedly calling his name and title, Team Leader Suyok. He opens his eyes, trying to identify the voice, and sees his own commander standing there. The commander verifies if Suyok is conscious. The female leader from the battle is also present, staring at him. Suyok attempts to ask about her identity, but realizes he is chained to a pillar. He questions his current condition. The woman instructs Suyok to listen closely. She informs him that based on his behavior, they have determined he is a vampire and have decided to execute him. Shocked, he looks at her in disbelief, questioning her statement. He dismisses the accusation, telling her not to make him laugh because such creatures do not exist. She approaches him, cups his face in her hands, and asks if he truly has no idea. He wonders what she intends to do. She bites her finger, drawing a few drops of blood. The sight of the blood triggers an immediate reaction. He is overcome by thirst. His fangs extend, and his veins begin to pulsate. His eyes turn crimson as he fixates on the droplet, his mind consumed by the singular desire to drink it. He stares at her with a manic intensity. At this moment, she asks if he believes the truth now. The protagonist is bewildered, asking what just happened to him. His commander admits that while it is difficult to believe, it appears to be true. He mentions receiving video footage of Suyok's rampage on the ship, noting that the condition of the bodies matched the descriptions exactly. Suyok asks for clarification, questioning if he was truly the one responsible. The woman explains that the intelligence agency was reckless to issue an elimination order without understanding what Anna actually was. Suyok asks if this means they discovered Anna is a vampire, a fact even the National Intelligence Service was unaware of. She confirms this, stating that the extermination of vampires is the specific jurisdiction of her Vatican squad. She places her foot on his chest and informs him that while the rules dictate he should be killed, she has decided to give him a special opportunity to serve as her dog. Suyok is taken aback by the proposal. The woman elaborates that, according to her intelligence, they share a mutual adversary. Consequently, she suggests that instead of wasting their energy fighting one another, they should join forces to eliminate Anna. Meanwhile, inside a high-rise building, Snow White expresses frustration. She notes that while her organization is successfully taking over cartels and absorbing the mafia, her subordinates seem incapable of capturing a single pest. She seizes the female attacker by the throat. The subordinate begs for mercy and apologizes, but it is revealed that Snow White has already severed the woman's body into multiple pieces. Snow White remarks that entrusting the task to her was a mistake as expected. Removing her mask, she kisses the subordinate on the lips, transferring a portion of her blood into the woman's mouth. Upon receiving the blood, the subordinate's body begins to regrow, achieving full regeneration within mere seconds. Restored, she kneels before Snow White. The leader warns her that this is her final chance and commands her to retrieve the target. The female attacker exits the building. As she walks down the street, another girl observes her from the rooftop, crouching in a cat-like posture. The protagonist travels in a vehicle accompanied by the squad leader and a driver. He reflects on her ultimatum. He must choose between dying as a vampire or becoming her dog to work together in destroying Anna. He also recalls his commander's advice to be cautious, noting that because the agent he killed belonged to the director's faction, he is now inevitably a target. His facial expression betrays his inner turmoil. The squad leader asks if he finds it difficult to accept his identity as a vampire. When Suyok questions why she brought him along, she explains that without her intervention, every faction would be hunting him. She argues that given the circumstances, seeking revenge together is the better option. The hero asks if she trusts him, to which she replies without hesitation that she does not trust him at all. However, she considers the enemy of her enemy to be an ally, which is sufficient for now. She announces that they have arrived at the squad's main base, which serves as a sanctum. He observes that it appears to be a cathedral, and she confirms this is correct. He remarks that the setting feels appropriate. As he looks at the building, assuming they are to enter, she clarifies that this is not their destination. Furthermore, she explains that he cannot enter the sanctum because it is protected by sacred artifacts. He questions what the next step is. She responds that even if he joins the squad, he currently remains vulnerable prey for Anna. Therefore, she has classified him as a special case under her direct supervision, which means he is required to live with her. She informs him that they are at a hotel affiliated with the squad, a secure location that keeps no records. It then occurs to her that they have not yet properly introduced themselves. The woman identifies herself as Mirror, a member of the Vatican's secret squad. The protagonist responds by introducing himself as Kim Soo-hyuk. Sensing that he likely harbors numerous questions, Mirror invites him to ask whatever he wishes. He expresses curiosity regarding the nature of vampires. She questions if he has come to terms with his new reality before beginning her explanation. She clarifies that as long as vampires continue to ingest human blood, they remain immortal. Furthermore, they wield physical capabilities far exceeding those of humans, with certain individuals possessing unique supernatural powers. The majority of these special traits are derived from the blood of ancient vampire lineages. At present, Anna stands as the sole survivor of that ancient line. Soo-hyuk suddenly recalls the moment he bit Anna's neck, realizing that some of her blood had entered his mouth during the struggle. He then inquires how one goes about killing them. Mirror explains that vampires typically incinerate upon exposure to sunlight, though he is an exception to this rule. She posits that this anomaly is likely the reason Anna is hunting him. However, she suggests that by leveraging this unique trait, they can engineer an opportunity to confront Anna. To achieve this, he requires greater strength, which she promises to help him attain. She then asks if he comprehends the true reason for her bringing him to this location. He answers that his understanding is crystal clear. He deduces that she fears him. Without the weakness of sunlight, he has the potential to become the most dangerous vampire in existence. Leaving him unchecked poses a risk, yet executing him would waste significant potential. Therefore, the strategy is to use their common enemy as a justification to keep him under surveillance, allowing for his elimination should he prove too dangerous. Ultimately, she has nothing to lose in this arrangement. Mirror smiles, remarking that his insight proves his reputation as a top agent is well-deserved. She notes that, in the end, he remains a vampire, and managing him is simply part of her duties as a squad member. She adds that their desire to eliminate Anna is genuine, and to that end, they fully intend to enhance his abilities. She invites him to voice any complaints he might have at any time. Soo-hyuk states that he has already experienced death multiple times. He declares that as long as he succeeds in killing Anna, nothing else matters to him, indicating a willingness to submit to her terms without resistance. Mirror reflects on the fact that he has laid bare his true intentions without concealment, yet remains compliant. She wonders if he is implying that revenge is his sole motivation. Regardless, she finds herself appreciating his audacity and muses that taming him will be an enjoyable challenge. Concluding the introductions, she announces that it is time to feed. She tilts her head, offering her neck for him to bite. The protagonist is confused by the sudden offer, questioning her intent. She taunts him, reminding him that, like it or not, he is now a vampire as well. She observes that while blood deprivation normally paralyzes a vampire, he appears to seek blood in a frenzied, unique manner. She expresses curiosity regarding whether he would refuse to kill innocent humans to satisfy his hunger. He rises from his seat and begins to approach her. Mirror persists in presenting her neck, complaining that the muscle is beginning to cramp. She presses him to make haste and feed. Following a moment of reluctance, he bites down on her neck and begins to draw blood, causing his eyes to shift to a crimson hue. She questions if he is receiving the flow and repeatedly encourages him to consume more, even offering him the entirety of it. Abruptly, a memory of Anna surfaces, specifically her remark about him being an interesting specimen as she had expected. Triggered by this recollection, he ceases feeding and shoves Mirror away. She moves directly to her bed and lies there for a few moments. Soo-hyuk questions whether this overwhelming urge for blood is merely the instinct of a vampire. Mirror advises him that since the following day will be demanding, he should get to sleep immediately, warning that she will execute him if he slacks off. He gazes at her, inquiring if this method of feeding will be a daily necessity. He reflects that all of this is for the sake of vengeance. He resolves that although his physical form has transformed into that of a vampire, his heart remains human. Memories of his two brothers, murdered by Snow White, fill his mind. Soo-hyuk remains certain that he will send that villain to hell. The protagonist then lies down directly beside Mirror and falls asleep. While they are both sleeping peacefully, Mirror wakes up, perplexed to find him lying right next to her. She questions the reason for his proximity, noting that there is another room directly across from them containing a bed, which he failed to mention or use. To her, his choice to lie beside her is incredible. She reflects that for a saint, sharing a bed with a man is highly improper. She contemplates that she was unaware of this side of his personality, labeling him a lecherous man harboring lascivious thoughts. Initially, she stares at him, but then she closes her eyes, telling herself to compose her mind. Eventually, she begins to pray to their Father in heaven, asking not to be led into temptation. Suddenly, his hand drops onto her stomach, startling her. She struggles to suppress her impulses, anxiously wondering what might happen next. Later in the staff room, Suyok and Mirror stand opposite one another as she explains the methods for killing a vampire. She reiterates that standard weaponry is ineffective against them. There are only two viable means of elimination: sunlight and silver. She details that mere contact with silver causes burning agony, while using silver weapons to decapitate or pierce the heart results in a fatal blow. She reminds him that this is why the female attacker from before survived. Apart from these specific weaknesses, vampires are indestructible. She asks if he has any inquiries before they commence training. He reflects on the fact that she introduced herself as Mirror and expresses regret regarding his sleeping behavior from the previous night. Abruptly, she becomes enraged and delivers a punch, which he intercepts using both hands. He questions the nature of her sudden aggression. Visibly furious, she warns him to cease the nonsense and insists that he must master the fundamentals. She declares that they will commence immediately, as he requires combat experience against non-human entities. Through future sparring sessions, he is expected to enhance his capabilities as a special forces operative, while simultaneously increasing his vampire strength through blood consumption. Upon checking his understanding, Mirror abruptly lunges at him once more, throwing a punch while ordering him to fall in line. However, he blocks the strike with minimal effort. He mocks her assertion, claiming that no human possesses strength superior to that of a vampire. He attempts to strike her, but she evades the blow with ease. Retaliating, she lands a rapid punch squarely on his chin. She does not cease her assault, unleashing a barrage of punches before throwing him to the ground. She informs him that regardless of the difficulty of the path ahead, she intends to endure it. Rising to his feet, he reminds her that as a black agent, he has survived conditions akin to hell. They continue their regimen, and after several months of rigorous training, he begins to show progress. Although he is improving, it is noted that his current level is still far from sufficient. Unexpectedly, an agent enters the room. Mirror inquires about the sudden intrusion. The agent apologizes for interrupting her work, but states that her presence is required at the sanctum immediately. She questions the summons to the sanctum but confirms her understanding, stating she will prepare at once. She instructs the protagonist to remain there, promising to return shortly, to which he responds affirmatively. As she walks toward the sanctum, she questions the reason for the summons. She complains to the accompanying officer, but he replies that he does not have access to specific details regarding the matter. She suspects she has a general idea of the entity capable of summoning her in such a fashion. A vehicle approaches, and she notes that the visitors must have arrived. It is a black Mercedes-Benz, and they depart in that vehicle. Meanwhile, the strange girl remains perched atop a high building, crouching like a cat as she observes their vehicle. After watching the car for a brief moment, she confirms that she has located them. Her eyes glow intensely like electric lights as she utters the name of Kim Suyok. Mirror informs her colleague that there is only one authority capable of summoning her in that manner, a fact she knows well due to her rank as Bishop Mirror. Upon arrival, she asks the superior officer what brings him to the sanctum, identifying him as a direct envoy from the Vatican. The envoy expresses that it is an honor to meet her, and offers thanks for her diligent efforts, noting that the organization is perpetually grateful for her service. He states his preference to bypass formal pleasantries and address the core issue immediately. He inquires whether she has harbored a vampire. She reacts with surprise, realizing that they are already aware of the situation. Meanwhile, inside a massive hotel, numerous people are seated in the lobby. The receptionist greets a new arrival who wishes to check in. The staff member requests identification and asks for the total count of his party. The guest informs him that the group is quite substantial, consisting of 200 people. As the receptionist reacts with confusion regarding the large number, the man suddenly draws a knife and fatally strikes him. Panic erupts among the people in the reception area as they begin to flee. The head of security commands his team, stating that he will handle the threat personally while instructing 2 guards to manage the civilian evacuation and report to the control room. A voice suddenly wishes the team leader luck in handling the situation alone. Surprised, the leader turns to identify the speaker. He observes 2 black cars speeding directly toward the hotel gate. The vehicles crash through the glass doors and barge into the reception area. Numerous Yakuza members emerge from the cars, brandishing large knives. Currently, only 3 agents stand against the countless Yakuza. The agents curse the intruders, questioning their audacity to attack the location. The security leader stabs one Yakuza member in the chest, inflicting a deep wound, but is shocked to witness the injury heal almost instantly. The Yakuza member kills the leader with a single slash of his knife. The attacker remarks that hiding in such a place and allying with the Vatican is a betrayal of their brotherhood. The intruders are hunting for Suyak, and their leader asserts that he must be located nearby. He notes that if a specific individual administered the substance, there should be no complications, revealing that all these Yakuza members are vampires. The female Yakuza leader orders her men to retrieve the target, prompting the mob to rush toward the guest rooms. She addresses a young female vampire, acknowledging her hard work during the search, and ordering her to destroy the control room before rejoining the group. The young vampire asks if they will be permitted to feast until satisfied once the operation concludes. Identified as Coco, a squad leader of the Nanayama Yakuza, she reacts with delight upon receiving confirmation. As she heads toward the control room, Coco moves on all fours in a surprisingly cat-like manner. Inside the elevator, the female Yakuza leader reflects on Mirror, noting that she has abandoned her post, leaving only insignificant obstacles behind. She considers that she brought along subordinates who have utilized a specific enhancement as a precaution, ensuring that failure is impossible. Upon reaching the 18th floor, she is shocked to discover that all of her men have been killed. She questions how her forces could have been defeated so quickly, and speculates whether a high-level bishop is present. While she is contemplating this possibility, she suddenly hears a voice remark that it has been a long time. Turning around, she is startled to find Suyok, who asks if she has been searching for him. Meanwhile, at the church, the man asks Mirror why she has integrated a vampire into the Vatican squad. He informs Mirror that while he does not doubt her judgment and intends to hear the full details at the upcoming bishop's meeting, he hopes she fully comprehends her actions. She responds affirmatively. She explains that after 3 months of close monitoring, no threatening factors were detected, and the subject has diligently completed the Vatican's training. She adds that while she does not know if he will lead them to ruin or salvation, she has witnessed his potential. Back at the hotel, Suyok expresses relief to the Lady Yakuza, noting that he has been searching for her as well. Standing in the radiant light as a red-eyed vampire, he declares his intention to settle the matter that day. The Lady Yakuza, enraged, dismisses the situation as insane. She draws her sword and attacks, but is astonished to find him far too strong for her, as he blocks her strike effortlessly. She questions what he has been doing during their time apart to become so powerful. Suyok warns her that he intends to return her own words to her, acknowledging that she has been a nuisance for a long time. He seizes her by the throat, throws her to the ground, and pins her down, announcing that this marks her end. She is terrified as he halts his knife just in front of her eye. She questions why the attack has ceased. Realizing her body is shivering and immobilized, she wonders what is happening to her. Suddenly, a woman accompanied by 2 massive snakes enters the room, inquiring if the man is Suyok. This newcomer is identified as Katarina, Squad Leader 5 of the Nanayama Yakuza. The protagonist wonders if the paralysis is the result of this woman's ability. The Lady Yakuza urges Katarina to hurry and subdue him, but Katarina shows no urgency. She tells her ally to calm down, stating that there is no need to dictate her actions. As one of her snakes advances toward the hero, she indicates that she plans to engage him regardless. One of the snakes coils around the Lady Yakuza, causing her great fear. The hero questions whether the newcomer is truly there to assist the Lady Yakuza. When the Lady Yakuza asks what Katarina is doing, Katarina replies that she is acting on her own whims. Katarina refers to him as an unbreakable toy. She reflects on the many young men she has killed, noting that regardless of how handsome a human may be, they ultimately either die or become hideous. Katarina expresses that she has always desired a male vampire, though she did not anticipate encountering one so soon. She commands Suyok to approach her, and he realizes with alarm that his body is moving independently of his volition. He questions whether this is a specific controlling ability. She forces him to grasp her breast and decrees that he will be her slave, moving according to her will for eternity. The Lady Yakuza insults Katarina using a derogatory slur and warns her that Lady Anna would never sanction such behavior. However, Katarina reveals that Anna has already given her approval, noting that once they secure Suyok, the details will not matter. She further discloses that Lady Anna has ordered the elimination of the Lady Yakuza and her useless friend. This revelation devastates the Lady Yakuza, as she and Lady Anna share a romantic history. At that moment, both the Lady Yakuza and Suyok remain trapped in the grip of Katarina's snakes. Katarina mocks the other woman, wondering if she is fainting and commenting on how such a simple task dragged on for months. She remarks that the Lady Yakuza held out for a long time through hard work, despite having useless talent. She bids the Lady Yakuza a final farewell as the snake prepares to devour her alive. Suddenly, Coco enters the room and reports to the Lady Yakuza that she has completed her tasks. Upon seeing Ayaka in such a condition, Coco becomes deeply distressed and asks what has happened. Katarina points at Suyak, accusing him of being the perpetrator. The innocent-minded Coco becomes enraged and begins shouting at him. The protagonist realizes that his enemies have increased and worries that dealing with Katarina alone is already overwhelming. Katarina assures him that he need not worry, as he has been secured and will be returned to Lady Anna. Coco, still confused, asks if this man is truly responsible for Ayaka's state. Katarina affirms that he is. Coco directs her anger at him, but she suddenly detects the scent of Katarina's poison on Ayaka. This realization catches Katarina slightly off guard. The narrative shifts to a memory inside a jail cell, where a very young girl is crying in fear, wishing to go home to her mother. Another child lies unconscious on the floor. A young Coco introduces herself to the frightened girl and asks for her name. It is revealed that Ayaka is recalling the first time she met Coco. Returning to the present, Ayaka asks Suyak if he is awake and wonders if she is capable of movement. He is not surprised to find that she remains paralyzed. She questions the difference made by his ultra-speed recovery and asks for a status update on Coco. He informs her that the situation is dire. She is terrified to learn that while Coco is fighting well against the snakes, the matchup is poor due to the poison. He explains that they cannot get close to Katarina and that Coco's speed is decreasing due to exhaustion. Ayaka realizes that if the battle continues, Coco will die and insists that they must save her. Suyak bluntly tells her that in her current state, she would only be a burden. Angered, Ayaka insults him. Suyak then demands that she share information regarding the woman controlling the snakes. He suggests that if he joins forces with Ayaka and her friend, they could win. Ayaka asks if he is proposing a team alliance. She questions whether he was not attempting to kill her just moments prior. However, she simultaneously acknowledges that this alliance represents their best option at the present time. Despite this, she tells him not to be ridiculous, asking how she can possibly trust him. Suyak considers what her next move might be. He then draws his knife on her, causing Ayaka to become terrified. Meanwhile, Katarina reflects that she is expending more power than anticipated and requiring too much of her blood, particularly on this unexpected fool. She is baffled as to why her opponent has not been poisoned yet, believing there is no way this simpleton could detoxify the venom. She concludes the girl is simply clueless. Coco continues her battle against Katarina's snakes. Katarina is startled to realize that Coco has been holding her breath the entire time. Finally, Coco launches an attack, grabbing Katarina in midair and hurling her out of the window. Coco resumes breathing, admitting that she would have perished had the combat lasted much longer. She calls out to Ayaka, inquiring about her well-being and location. Eventually, she locates her friend, but exhausted from her efforts, she collapses to the ground. She notices a small snake biting her leg and feels the poison circulating through her system. She questions whether she underestimated her opponent. Suddenly, Katarina re-enters through the shattered window, mockingly asking if Coco had something to say. The two are now in close proximity. Katarina finds the situation intriguing and decides to ensure that Coco and the friend she is desperately seeking remain together eternally. She transforms into a massive serpent, declaring that Coco will meet her end inside the monster's stomach. Just as the snake prepares to devour Coco, Ayaka abruptly appears and decapitates the creature. Coco feels immense relief and joy at seeing Ayaka again. Katarina is shocked to witness that Ayaka has been detoxified, knowing that the ability to neutralize the poison is supposed to be exclusive. She questions how Ayaka managed to achieve this recovery. Ayaka flashes back to the moment she asked Suyak about teaming up, challenging his trustworthiness given his recent attempt on her life. He replies that if that is how she feels, nothing can be done. He then uses his knife to slice his own hand. Confused, Ayaka questions what he is doing. Suyak explains that the enemy of one's enemy is an ally, and for the time being, that is sufficient. He acknowledges that she must be furious and feeling betrayed after dedicating herself completely, only to be on the verge of losing her friend. He comprehends the extent of her rage. At that juncture, Suyak instructs her to consume his blood. This prompts a sudden memory within her of Coco as a child, extending a hand in a gesture of friendship. Simultaneously, Suyak reflects on the adage that the most terrifying adversary is one who has nothing left to lose, noting that when confronting such an individual, the outcome is inevitable. As the conflict progresses toward Katarina's demise, Ayaka and Suyak stand united. Elsewhere, an operative rushes to Mirror with an urgent report, revealing that a massive force of vampires has breached the hotel. Mirror is visibly shocked by this development. Back at the battle, Suyak charges toward the serpents, knife in hand. Ayaka explains that the enemy possesses the ability to transform her body into a serpent and command other snakes. She warns him that suffering a bite or inhaling the venomous mist will result in paralysis, leaving the body stiff and easily manipulated. Fortunately, the mist's effects are temporary, but they must close the distance between themselves and their target immediately. The protagonist slices through the heads of the snakes, but their numbers are overwhelming, and they regenerate endlessly. One serpent manages to snatch his silver knife in its jaws, causing him to suspect that the enemy is deliberately attempting to disarm him. As the swarm encircles him, preparing to strike, Ayaka leaps into the fray, severing the snakes with her sword. She admonishes him to compose himself, questioning if he intends to die simply because he lost the silver knife. She reveals that Katarina consumes blood to fuel her powers, meaning the snakes will not reproduce indefinitely. But the enemy's strategy is to exhaust their stamina. She volunteers to handle the serpents and instructs him to assist Coco in the interim. He approaches Coco, informing her that they are allies for the time being. He explains that once he detoxifies her blood, she must assist him and her friend. He administers his blood into her mouth, declaring it the only method for their collective survival. The blood revitalizes her, providing a surge of energy. Abruptly, she leaps up, tackling the hero and sitting atop him in a canine-like posture. Suyak questions whether she remains under mind control, as he was certain the detoxification process was successful. She calls out to Ayaka, announcing that she has captured Suyak. Ayaka clarifies that he is no longer an enemy, and that they must join forces to eliminate Katarina. Upon hearing this, Coco observes Suyak for a few moments before sprinting toward the snakes with the agility of a cat. Katarina reflects that her strategy to locate Suyak using the two girls was flawless, noting that their recovery from the poison and subsequent retaliation was also within her calculations. She remains determined to claim Suyak as her own. Meanwhile, Suyak continues to battle the snakes, directing the women to maintain their offensive as they close in on Katarina. He urges them to push just a little further. He shouts a warning that the venomous mist is encroaching, prompting everyone to hold their breath and stay close together. Ayaka remarks that the fog will dissipate shortly anyway. Regarding the purpose of the smokescreen, before she can finish her thought, Suyak deduces that the enemy is planning to use the cover to pick them off individually. Ayaka surmises that, excluding herself from the equation, the intended target is likely either Ayaka herself due to her speed, or the isolated fighter who relies on her support. Suddenly, Katarina materializes directly in front of Coco. She indignantly asks Coco how she dared to touch her body and declares that she will eliminate her first. However, in reality, her serpents simultaneously bite Ayaka from every angle. Coco expresses deep concern for her friend. The protagonist notes that he had anticipated this reaction, reasoning that if Katarina targeted Coco, it was inevitable that one of them would be struck. He urges Coco to approach him immediately so he can share his blood with her before the enemy arrives, but she informs him that such an action is unnecessary. He insists, emphasizing that time is running out and she needs to hurry. Both the hero and Coco watch as the snakes bite Ayaka all over her body. Suddenly, a knife strikes her in the chest. This event triggers a memory for Ayaka of her childhood, specifically the moment her mother apologized to her, stating that she had to obey a strange man from that point onward. Her mother had sold her to obtain drugs. The man introduced her to new friends, which turned out to be a red medicinal liquid. He instructed her to become good friends with the red substance while injecting it into her. The process inflicted immense pain upon her. This became a daily routine of repetitive medication experiments. Due to these drugs, the other subjects began to behave increasingly strangely until, one by one, they all died. The situation was terrifying, and there was a time when she felt it would have been better to freeze to death right there. While she was crying, she met Coco in the jail cell. She found Coco fascinating because the girl managed to smile despite being in such a hellish environment, and Ayaka found herself laughing along with her. Every day felt like a living nightmare, but they endured it by relying on one another. However, even that brief happiness was short-lived. One day, the doctor ordered the staff to segregate the subjects based on their dosage. He directed the control group to the left and the experimental group to the right, forcing them apart. She recalls the memory of both of them crying, looking at each other and calling out each other's names. Ayaka attempted to return a jacket, but the other girl told her to keep wearing it, promising that she would definitely come to find her. Coco appeared overjoyed to hear that promise. Several years later, Ayaka was transferred to Coco's cell, finally reuniting with her. She was overjoyed to find Coco alive. Ayaka admitted to Coco that she thought she would never see her again, but at that time, Coco was unable to recognize her. When Coco asked about her identity, Ayaka simply replied that she was someone who wanted to be her friend. Coco feels happiness knowing she has saved her friend. Subsequently, she vows to protect her, and eventually they manage to survive the hellish conditions they were in. However, they confront a serious issue. Ayaka is physically unstable, while Coco is mentally unstable. Together, they formulate a plan, questioning the difference between themselves and humans and wondering why they should be kept alive, even contemplating if they should simply kill the humans. After escaping that location, a new form of hell begins for them. Ayaka commences sword training, driven by the belief that she had intended to die and that failure to meet expectations would result in her being discarded at any time. She resolves that as long as she can live with Coco, she cannot leave the burden to her friend. She recalls the humiliation of being asked if she couldn't even catch a single bug and being told this was her last chance. She also reflects on how Sayok fed her his blood to save her life, contrasting this with how Lady Anna ripped her body apart merely to shame her. She remembers the feeling of being thrown out after giving them everything she had, as well as the frustration of losing a close friend. When Sayok offers her his own blood and suggests they escape and live together, she feels that for the first time, someone truly understands her, and it is him, her enemy. In her struggle to survive, she stained her hands countless times, and despite knowing what was right, she was unable to act. However, she wonders if it might be different with him. At this moment, she indicates she wants Sayok to listen closely. She attempts to speak, but suddenly pulls him close and kisses him. As her body begins to crack and fall apart, she expresses her thanks to Sayok. Simultaneously, she comforts Coco, telling her not to cry while recalling their shared good memories. Ayaka declares that they will always be together. As she speaks these words, her body begins to dissolve into tiny fragments, and within moments, she vanishes completely. Coco sits beside the clothes Ayaka left behind, weeping like a child, and repeatedly calling her name. Katrina smiles, remarking on how poor Ayaka was, noting that she spent her entire life supporting her friend, only to die because of her. Katrina taunts her, stating that she must now realize this resistance is futile. She orders Coco to accompany her to Anna, promising she will be treated kindly there, unlike her previous experiences. Sayok replies that he understands, a response that surprises Katrina. He completes his sentence by clarifying that he comprehends Ayaka's feelings and knows what he must do. Annoyed, Katrina wonders if she is talking to herself, since no one seems to be listening. Coco begins demanding that Katrina bring Ayaka back, and, while shouting these words, suddenly attacks Katrina using her super speed. Coco leaps into the air and descends back to the ground, her impact generating an intense flash of light. Both Katrina and Sayok are astonished by the sudden brightness. As they attempt to comprehend the event, they realize that Vatican forces have arrived on the scene, accompanied by Mirror. Sayok immediately informs the group that Coco is not an enemy combatant and that they are on the same side. However, he notices a bullet narrowly missing his head and questions why he is being targeted. A woman remarks on the abundance of vampires present and assures him that there is no need for concern as she intends to purify them all. Her attack radiates divine energy, and her pupils appear to bear the mark of the Holy Cross. She commends their audacity for daring to assault a hotel under the jurisdiction of the Vatican Squad. Katrina retorts that the woman is the one with audacity for delivering so many puppets for her to manipulate. She begins to disperse venom into the atmosphere, prompting Sayok to warn everyone to hold their breath. He explains that inhaling the toxins will result in either paralysis or enslavement. Undeterred, the woman strides confidently toward the poisonous cloud. The protagonist questions how she plans to defend against the threat. The woman erects a magical barrier directly in front of the serpent. The creature is unable to breach the wall, a result that pleases the woman greatly. Subsequently, she hurls a sphere of magic at the snake, severing its head. Coco and Sayok, still holding their breath, witness the spectacle and marvel at the ease with which she handles the serpents. At this point, the woman inquires about their next move. The pair remains curious regarding the extent of her strength. The hero observes that the antagonist has vanished, leaving no trace of the poisonous clouds or herself, save for the severed snake head. The woman expresses disappointment at having lost track of Katrina's location. She asks her team members where the enemy might have gone, but they reply that they have no idea. One of her subordinates attempts to calm her down. The bishop laments that only the head of the snake remains. Sayok points out that this is because she severed it, suggesting that Katrina likely hid inside the head to escape. Understanding the logic, she thanks him. The hero urges that they must pursue her immediately. However, the bishop points toward Coco and Sayok, ordering her team to shoot them first. Reacting instantly, Sayok grabs Coco and begins to flee. The team opens fire on them. The bishop calls out to Sayok, promising to dispatch him without pain since he is a good vampire. The hero quickly takes cover behind a wall with Coco, shouting that he is not an enemy and is allied with Mirror. Preparing to attack him, the bishop informs him that the Vatican does not negotiate with vampires. Furthermore, the bishop dismisses the claim of an alliance with Sister Mirror as utterly ridiculous, proceeding to attack them with her magical abilities. Sayok realizes that his situation has not yet been communicated to the wider Vatican hierarchy and considers how to avoid unnecessary conflict. In an attempt to prove his connection, Sayok references room number 1701. The woman is bewildered by the sudden mention of this specific number, as it is the very room she shares with Mirror. Upon hearing this detail, she neutralizes her weapon, visibly shocked by the implication that Mirror is cohabitating with a man. She demands to know the duration of this arrangement and when it began. Sayok then reveals that, on this particular day, Mirror is wearing black underwear. The revelation leaves the Lady Bishop in a state of extreme shock. Meanwhile, a car pulls up to the hotel entrance and Mirror steps out. She questions why 2 agency vehicles are parked at the location. Realizing they have arrived to deal with the vampires, she immediately sprints into the building. As she runs, she curses the vampires for exploiting her absence to launch an attack, reflecting that if they capture Sayok now, everything will be finished. Upon entering the facility, she asks Sayok if reports of a vampire incursion are true and demands a status update. Entering the hall, she discovers Sayok and Coco standing to one side, while the Lady Bishop stands nearby, appearing completely bewildered and muttering that the situation is ridiculous. Mirror asks for clarification regarding what she finds so ridiculous. Later, the group gathers in room 1701. It is reported that the Yakuza, accompanied by 3 vampire leaders, forced their way in. Subsequently, 1 leader was killed after the group split up, another escaped, and the 3rd was captured. Mirror confirms that they narrowly avoided a catastrophe, noting that had Sayok fallen into Anna's hands, the result would have been disastrous. Sayok points out that the enemy deduced exactly when she would be absent and targeted the location accordingly. This implies that their intelligence network is formidable and that the hotel is no longer a secure location. Mirror agrees that a change of location is necessary and asserts that they cannot afford to be separated for even a moment. At this juncture, Mirror and the protagonist lock eyes. The contact causes Mirror to feel shy, and she smiles. Sayok reflects on his progress, noting that he, a man who nearly died facing a single vampire initially, has now survived an encounter against 3. It is evident that he has grown stronger through combat training that exceeds human limits, as well as through the continuous consumption of blood. Mirror confirms that although his progress is somewhat slow, if he continues to gain strength at this rate, he will eventually be capable of killing Anna. She instructs that regardless, he must not leave his post carelessly from this point on. Mirror then reacts with anger, asking if he would suggest refusing an order if the higher-up summoned him. He informs her that he has acquired crucial intelligence she needs to hear. Intrigued, she asks for details. He reveals that, as a vampire, he has discovered a method to match Anna's speed and strength. This revelation leaves her in a state of shock. He explains that the intel came from Ayaka, the 7th squad leader of the Nanayama Yakuza, just prior to her death. He reasons that while standard blood consumption increases a vampire's strength, his current growth rate is insufficient to challenge Anna. However, consuming the blood of another vampire alters the equation entirely. He asserts that drinking vampire blood allows one to appropriate the power the victim has amassed, and if specific criteria are met, unique abilities can be acquired. Mirror expresses skepticism regarding the source's reliability and notes that the conditions for obtaining these abilities remain ambiguous. Despite the uncertainty, Suyok insists the theory is worth testing. He cites his recent experience where, after consuming Ayaka's blood, he briefly accessed a new ability that caused incoming bullets to appear to move in slow motion. Given that Anna commands 7 vampire subordinates, he realizes his objective is to consume the blood of each one. Mirror grasps the implication and questions if this is why he secured Coco. She acknowledges that since Coco is one of Anna's subordinates, detaining her for the time being is a logical step. Coco displays visible anger, prompting the Lady Bishop to instruct her to speak her mind. Suyak intervenes, explaining that Coco harbors a grudge against Anna for the murder of her friend, suggesting she could be a valuable ally. Mirror appears annoyed by his assessment, leading him to ask if there is an issue with his reasoning. Mirror reveals that there are several complications, primarily because the bishop's council is imminent. When he inquires about the nature of this council, she explains it is a gathering of Vatican bishops to discuss the threat posed by Anna's forces. However, she notes that the current agenda focuses on Suyak, as his induction into the vampire hunting unit has caused dissatisfaction among certain factions. Nevertheless, she reassures him not to worry, claiming her standing is secure. She reiterates that her initial reason for bringing him was surveillance, but admits that she has begun to trust him to a degree. She unbuttons her shirt, commending his hard work. Offering her neck, she presents her blood as a reward and invites him to feed. The Lady Bishop, listening to the conversation from outside the room, is overcome with shock and anger, unable to believe what she is hearing. Inside, Suyak questions Mirror's terminology, pointing out that she provides this daily, so he fails to see how it constitutes a special reward. Outside, the eavesdropping bishop is stunned by the revelation of these daily feedings. Mirror remarks on how he has changed, noting that initially, he struggled to restrain his excitement. Mirror observes that he appears to be performing the act quite leisurely now. Suyak instructs her to inform him if the process becomes too difficult midway through. Standing outside the room, the Lady Bishop trembles in fear upon overhearing this conversation. She notes that while he initially struggled to restrain his excitement, he now seems quite relaxed. When Suyak tells Mirror to speak up if it gets too hard, the Lady Bishop misinterprets the context, imagining that the two are currently engaged in sexual intercourse. She questions what on earth Sister Mirror is doing. At that moment, she hears Mirror remind him that he previously stated, "the more the better," and suggests that perhaps they should call Lucia to join them as well. He responds that they should first ask for her opinion. Upon hearing this, Lucia is terrified, believing that Mirror intends to include her in the act. She questions why she is being chosen, and begins to hallucinate a scenario where she and Mirror are both entertaining Suyak simultaneously. The mere imagination of the event causes her to shake. The door opens, and Mirror steps out, beginning to ask Lucia a question. Before she can finish, Lucia collapses to the floor. As Mirror exits the room, Lucia embraces her and states that she will see her at the bishop's meeting. However, while hugging Mirror, Lucia glares at Suyak with intense anger. Immediately afterward, she rushes to her car and vanishes. Suyak questions what happened to her. Mirror informs him that Lucia has departed, leaving them to deal with the problem of Coco. Coco expresses satisfaction that the bishop is no longer acting superior, dismissing her as insignificant. She imperiously orders Mirror to provide fresh blood and a place to rest immediately, stating that she would then gladly accept Mirror as a subordinate. In response, Suyak abruptly punches Coco and commands her to keep her mouth shut. Mirror questions whether this girl will truly be of assistance. Suyak explains that, as previously mentioned, he requires vampire blood. He notes that if they classify her as an enemy, the only course of action is to drain her blood before eliminating her. However, retaining her as an ally ensures a continuous supply. He argues that considering her ability to detect him and her combat skills, she would definitely be useful. Mirror agrees with his assessment, but remains skeptical about his ability to control someone with her personality. Terrified, Coco hides behind Suyak's legs, remarking that such violence is to be expected from the Vatican. Mirror is puzzled as to why Coco behaves nicely toward him. Suyak admits he has no idea. He observes Coco hiding behind him while she directs her anger at Mirror. He reflects on how he was once consumed by rage when his comrades died, leading him to kill the director and the team members who were sacrificed. He acknowledges that he killed them all. He recognizes that this girl, who also lost a friend, is surely burning with a similar inner fire. He addresses Coco by name, and she looks up at him with an expression of love and trust. He informs her of their intention to kill her master, Anna, noting that while her assistance in the process would be appreciated, she is not absolutely necessary. She is presented with a choice. She can either perish as a vampire or join them in seeking vengeance for her friend. At this juncture, Coco is forced to select one path. After contemplating for a few seconds, Coco responds that she harbors hatred toward Anna because the leader always made Ayaka's life difficult. She admits to hating the Vatican even more, given that Mirror injured Ayaka, yet she finds it impossible to forgive the one responsible for Ayaka's death. She declares that if he kills Anna, she is willing to do anything for him. Suyak glances at Mirror to gauge her reaction, and she consents to the arrangement. She decides that she will have both him and Coco speak at the upcoming bishop's meeting. However, she asserts that they are now her responsibility. Consequently, if he loses control or causes harm to anyone, he will face immediate retribution. Mirror instantly regrets making such a declaration. Inside the bathroom, Coco screams while being bathed, accusing the Vatican member of trickery and asking how she dares to subject her to such torture. Mirror scrubs her down while commenting on the stench, questioning how long it has been since the girl last washed. Coco shouts back that she smells fine, but Mirror mocks her, suggesting her sense of smell must be defective. Mirror reflects that for someone whose job is killing vampires, the task of washing this dog feels excessive. Suyak reminds her that he previously stated the necessity of vampire blood, advising her to think positively, as this is unavoidable for the greater good. In the main room, Suyak is cleaning his silver knife when Coco suddenly bursts out, sprinting on all fours like a cat while completely naked. She complains to him that Mirror put poison in her eyes and begs him to save her. As Mirror drags Coco back toward the bathroom, she impatiently asks him why he isn't coming to help immediately. As Coco continues to cry out for his assistance, Mirror commands her to keep her eyes closed and remain still. Amidst the chaos, Suyak recalls a memory of his friends teasing him. They address him as Hyung, asking if he is receiving a promotion. He retorts that they should stop using that title and address him formally as Team Leader Suyak. They laugh at his insistence, and he tells them to stop, finding the situation cringy. They playfully demand a treat, specifically beefsteak, declaring him their only reliable team leader at times like this. Suddenly, their commander appears, expressing a desire to join the meal. The friends inform the commander that Suyak is treating them to beef. Still annoyed, Suyak reminds them that his status as a team leader does not mean they should address him familiarly. The commander responds that once someone is a Hyung, they remain one forever. Suyak reflects on how boisterous those times used to be. Back in the present, Mirror continues to manage Coco, instructing her to rinse her mouth quickly and warning her not to consume anything in the bathroom. Upon finishing the shower, an exhausted Mirror collapses onto her bed, thinking that the current situation is absolute madness. Coco consistently ignores Mirror, yet adheres strictly to Suyak's commands. When Suyak instructs her to sit, she complies with the obedience of a dog. She even dresses herself the instant he issues the order, after which he proceeds to dry her hair. Mirror speculates that Coco's behavior might stem from the fact that she previously assaulted Coco's friend. She also recalls Coco's declaration that she could never forgive Ayaka's killer and her vow to do anything for them if they succeed in eliminating Anna. Mirror reflects on how the trauma of losing someone precious and being isolated in enemy territory must have heightened Coco's sensitivity, realizing she ought to make an effort to understand the girl. Abruptly waking up, Mirror discovers Coco feeding on blood from her hand. Confused, she questions what the girl is doing. Coco casually responds that she is simply hungry. While Mirror offers a smile, she simultaneously grips the hilt of her sword in her other hand. Suyak is asleep when the sound of Coco's voice disturbs him. She accuses Mirror of finally revealing her true nature, insulting her as a jerk from the Vatican, and claiming the woman cursed her to die before fleeing the room. He closes his eyes once more, quietly murmuring his gratitude for Mirror's hard work. While he remains in a deep slumber, Coco positions herself directly on top of him, gazing down with affection and care, internally declaring that he now belongs to her. In the early morning hours, Suyak rouses from his sleep to discover a weight pressing down on him. Lifting the blanket, he realizes it is Coco, slumbering like a child atop him. When he questions her presence, she replies that the sunlight makes it dangerous elsewhere. Desiring her to wake up, he removes the blanket entirely, still baffled by her sudden behavior. She refuses to detach herself from him, weeping as she calls out Ayaka's name. At that moment, he comprehends the root of the issue. Having consumed Ayaka's blood, he now carries her scent, which explains why she followed his instructions so well. He empathizes with the pain of losing a cherished companion and understands the reason for her tears. As Coco continues to cling to him in bed, refusing to let go, he recalls a time when his commander comforted him, telling him it was okay while he wept like a child. He assures Coco that everything is fine now. Later, inside the hotel gymnasium, he and Mirror engage in martial arts practice. When Mirror delivers a high-speed punch, he evades it with ease. She is surprised by his speed. His counter-punch connects with her face. She remarks on his sudden improvement, noting that his reflexes are undeniably faster than before. She inquires if this enhancement results from consuming Ayaka's blood, concluding that it is a positive development she needs to utilize to her advantage. He questions what she implies by that statement. She explains that the bishop's conference is scheduled for today. Although his existence remains unofficial, this event will determine his formal admission. He considers the consequences should the order deem him unsuitable. Mirror bluntly states that the result would be immediate execution. She places a hand on his shoulder to comfort him, advising him not to worry. She expresses her belief that he possesses sufficient potential to draw out hidden vampires, as well as the capacity for rapid growth that will allow him to rival the captains within a short time frame. She asserts that these two factors will enable him to contribute significantly to the order. Since he is the key to ending the crusade by killing Anna, she inquires if he lacks confidence. He responds that he possessed adequate strength even as a human. Now that he has learned the method to increase his power as a vampire, he views Anna's elimination as merely a matter of time. Acknowledging that there is much work to be done, he suggests they conclude the bishop's conference quickly. Mirror appears very pleased with his confidence. They prepare to enter the conference room. The protagonist reflects on Anna Nanayama, the squad leaders, and his own transformation into a vampire. He regards the Vatican and his enemies as demons originating from the same hell. He remains indifferent as to whether the Vatican exploits him or if he exploits them. He does not care either way. He is determined to exact revenge on the woman who destroyed his life. He has already secured 2 of the 7 leaders, calculating that he is now only 5 steps away from Anna. He believes it is necessary to drain all of them to facilitate his growth. This is the train of thought occupying his mind. At that moment, Anna asks Katrina about the recent battle. Katrina explains that Ayaka's death has been confirmed and surmises that Coco is likely with the Vatican. She clarifies that she means Coco is with Suyok. Katrina confirms to Anna that events proceeded exactly as planned. She notes that he is growing exceptionally well. Katrina adds that he even successfully neutralized her transformed poison. She predicts that he will come to them without the need for their intervention. Anna commands her to focus solely on the red thing until that happens. At the site of the bishop's conference, which is soon to convene in the cathedral, Mirror explains the situation to Suyok. He asks why they are not using the sanctum they visited previously. She clarifies that this is the cathedral beneath the Vatican. She displays a map, explaining that while it functions as a regular cathedral, it also serves as an intelligence hub, which is necessary since he is unable to enter the sanctum due to the sacred artifacts housed there. She notes that the location was arranged specifically for him. Suyok expresses his appreciation. He confirms his understanding of her efforts, but questions if such measures were truly necessary. It is revealed that the order mandated he be kept restrained as a precaution. He acknowledges that this cannot be helped. She explains that while there will be bishops hostile toward him, his situation is still better than Coco's. From a short distance away, a man observes the pair and inquires whether the individual standing there is the vampire under her charge. Mirror welcomes the man, identified as Bishop Dominic, noting that a significant amount of time has passed since their last encounter. He reciprocates by asking about her well-being. Dominic questions if this is indeed Suyok, the vampire who was formerly a black agent and is currently seeking admission into the Vatican. He expresses his delight, characterizing the situation as excellent news. He states his confidence that Suyok will be a tremendous asset to their combat capabilities, complimenting Mirror on discovering such a talent. Mirror explains that during a recent mission, Suyok fought on equal terms with the enemy squad leaders. Dominic mocks this achievement, implying that he must have fought the weakest of the leaders. He adds that his personal desire is to burn all vampires to death and laments that he was not present for the battle. He then begins to laugh at the protagonist. Suyok removes Dominic's hand from his shoulder. As Dominic prepares to leave, he remarks that it was a pleasure meeting him and that they will see each other later in the conference room. He summons his assistant, Hilda, to accompany him. Hilda mentions to Mirror that it has been a long time and confirms she will see her at the meeting. Before departing, Hilda stares at the hero with innocent eyes and offers him a greeting. Suyok questions whether Hilda is truly a bishop. Mirror informs him that her situation is a special case, differing significantly from the standard hierarchy. She suggests that he likely sensed the tension, noting that to most members of the Vatican, he is viewed as a nuisance. She warns him that while there are others like Dominic, some members may be openly hostile. Suddenly, Lucia enters and embraces Mirror, prompting Mirror to question her early arrival. It appears that their meetings have become more frequent lately. Lucia asks if Mirror finds this enjoyable. Mirror confirms that she is happy to see her. However, Lucia directs an angry glare toward Suyok. Lucia inquires if Mirror has encountered Lady Cecilia yet. When Mirror replies that she is not, Lucia advises her to be cautious of Lady Cecilia. Mirror asks for the reason behind this warning. Lucia explains that Cecilia despises vampires more than anyone else. Regardless of how much assistance Suyok provides to the Vatican, she will undoubtedly oppose him strongly. Mirror thanks her for the warning but assures her that there is no need for concern, stating that despite their frequent disagreements, Cecilia remains more than qualified as a bishop. Abruptly, Suyok warns Mirror that a fire projectile is heading straight for him. Mirror swiftly strikes the fire with her sword, deflecting it away. She is left wondering what is happening. It is revealed to be Cecilia, who declares that she is simply performing her duty as a bishop. She challenges Mirror, asking if a bishop whose role is to protect people from vampires is now seriously defending a vampire. She insists that a meeting is unnecessary and commands Mirror to abandon him. As Cecilia prepares to launch another attack on Suyok, Lucia intervenes, explaining that they brought Suyok to the location under the direct orders of the cardinal. Cecilia remains unpersuaded, maintaining that she is merely performing her duty and instructing Mirror to step aside quietly. Lucia attempts to reason with Lady Cecilia, but the woman's attention is entirely fixed on Suyok, whom she finds fascinating. Mirror issues a warning that if she refuses to move, she will be dealt with personally. Cecilia lunges forward, reminding Mirror that she has already been warned. Lucia prepares to assist, but Mirror orders her to stand down, assuring her that she can handle the situation and will address it in her own way. Lady Cecilia and Mirror now stand face to face, moments away from a clash. The battle commences, with Mirror wielding her sword against Cecilia's magical fists.
Fire and smoke obscure the air, making it difficult to discern their movements. Lucia watches anxiously, questioning whether Mirror can hold her ground against her opponent. Suddenly, a female bishop arrives and demands to know the cause of the commotion. As Mirror and Cecilia continue to exchange blows, Mirror is surprised by the ease with which the other woman blocks her attacks.
The newly arrived bishop observes the conflict and questions Cecilia regarding Mirror's identity, clearly intrigued. Without warning, all three female bishops lower themselves into deep bows and, in unison, greet Her Holiness. The figure they acknowledge is the cardinal herself, whose name is Helena. Cecilia apologizes for her earlier misconduct. Helena dismisses the apology, stating it is fine, and that she can roughly surmise the reasoning behind her actions. She orders everyone to enter the meeting room. Mirror acknowledges the command, confirming she understands. However, Cecilia warns Mirror to view this event not as a meeting, but as an execution trial, making it clear that without a valid reason, the man will die by her hands that day. Lucia invites Mirror to join her inside. Mirror reminds herself to remain focused, aware that if the meeting goes poorly, both Suyok and Coco will face death right there. Inside the conference room, Helena opens the session, officially commencing the proceedings. All 6 individuals are seated at the table while Suyok stands before them. Helena greets the group, noting that it has been a while since they met, and expressing hope that they have been well. Cecilia promptly requests permission to speak, capturing Helena's attention. Helena asks what she intends to say. Cecilia apologizes, but insists on asking why a filthy vampire is present in such a sacred place. Mirror reflects that she went straight to the point. Helena explains that she is certain everyone was surprised by the agenda and acknowledges that this matter is likely the primary concern for everyone present. Since they have all been briefed, she invites each of them to share their opinions. Cecilia vehemently declares that a vampire in the Vatican is absolutely unacceptable. Dominic adds that he cannot trust them, arguing that they are too easily controlled by anger and desire. Bishop Hilda responds that she remains unsure about the matter. Consequently, Cecilia directs the question to Lucia, noting that she heard Lucia had already met the individual. Simultaneously, Dominic offers a piece of candy to Hilda, encouraging her to speak boldly. Hilda accepts the treat and thanks him, behaving much like a child. Lucia explains to Cecilia that her initial encounter with him occurred when Anna's team leader attacked the hotel. She recounts that Suyok risked his life to defend the base and assisted the allied members who had joined the fray. However, because the Vatican forces lacked intelligence regarding his identity, they continued to attack him. Lucia emphasizes that even though he possessed the ability to retaliate, he never fought back against them. Dominic expresses surprise upon hearing this detail. Lucia adds that, furthermore, Suyok is currently under the control of Bishop Mirror. Privately, Lucia believes this arrangement makes perfect sense, suspecting that the two are lovers, though she refrains from voicing this thought during the meeting. As she concludes her statement, her nose suddenly begins to bleed. Finally, Helena seeks the opinion of Bishop Mirror. Mirror begins by stating that she believes in Suyok. Helena inquires as to why Mirror thinks he is necessary for the Vatican. Mirror responds that her conviction stems from witnessing his revelation. Cecilia laughs at this, wondering what could possibly drive Mirror to defend him, and expresses deep disappointment in her colleague. She argues that the revelation indicates two possibilities: the birth of chosen ones like themselves, or a warning of an impending threat. She asserts that the revelation clearly implies they must kill Suyak. Cecilia further adds that he mercilessly killed his own comrades. Suddenly, Suyak speaks up, stating that those men were the ones who attacked him and his team. Cecilia shouts at him to be silent and prepares to attack, declaring that scum like him has no right to speak. The hero glares at Cecilia with intense anger. Meanwhile, Coco wakes up in a prison cell, overcome by hunger. Her thoughts are entirely consumed by the desire to drink blood. Back in the conference, Mirror continues her argument, asserting that it was actually Suyak who was betrayed. She points out that if not for him, the lives of agents would have continued to be sacrificed. Cecilia remains furious, insisting that regardless of the circumstances, the man is still a vampire. She maintains that the will passed down from their ancestors is unambiguous, the total extermination of his kind. Mirror agrees with the goal of extermination, noting that they must deal with Anna and her vampires as well. She asks the room if there is anyone else present who can compel the enemy to reveal themselves on their own accord. She challenges the team on this point. Mirror recounts that the Vatican was established by St. Peter with a 2,000-year history, and due to the dedication and sacrifices of its members, only Anna remains of the ancient vampires. However, she notes that while Anna cunningly hides in the shadows to expand her power and evade them, those hidden forces have begun to emerge solely because of Suyak's appearance. Mirror argues that since Suyak's arrival, the opposing force has suffered the annihilation of their 7th squad leader, while the 6th squad leader has defected to join the Vatican's side. She asserts that the stagnation of the past has been replaced by rapid momentum, giving them a tangible lead to finally end the 2,000-year-old conflict within their generation. Cecilia, furious at these claims, accuses Mirror of speaking nonsense. She questions the sanity of accepting the enemy's 6th squad leader into their ranks. She demands that the Cardinal strip Mirror of her title and order the immediate execution of both vampires. Helena remarks that while Mirror's statement is bold, it merits consideration. She notes that Anna has revealed a weakness for the first time, presenting a potential opportunity. Consequently, she considers forming an experimental unit. Despite Cecilia's attempts to intervene, Helena insists that they cannot bypass legitimate procedure. She declares that the plan will be implemented only if a majority of the bishops agree. Furthermore, Helena mandates that those who support this decision must bear full responsibility for the outcome. Mirror confirms that she understands these terms. Slamming her fist onto the table, Cecilia concedes that she might be able to tolerate Suyak, but she finds the acceptance of Anna's female subordinate absolutely intolerable. Helena mentions reports suggesting that Coco possesses low aggression and is controllable, but decides they should verify this for themselves. She orders that Coco be brought into the chamber. However, a significant problem arises as a male bishop bursts into the room. Helena chastises him for interrupting the meeting, but he apologizes, insisting the matter is urgent. He shouts the news that Coco, the 6th squad leader, has escaped. The announcement leaves everyone in the room in a state of shock. Cecilia immediately mocks Mirror for the failure. Mirror asserts that recapturing the fugitive is the priority, but she suddenly realizes it is still daylight outside. Dominic points out that if she escaped from the basement, the situation could be catastrophic. Mirror deduces that Coco is likely heading toward the cathedral's orphanage. She imagines a scenario where a child wakes up to use the restroom, only to open the door and find Coco waiting there. Dominic cries out in panic for the children. Suddenly, the young female bishop tells him to wait. She begins to focus intensely on something. Suyak observes as her eyes start to glow like lights, causing the atmosphere around her to shift. Dominic attempts to calm her down, assuring her that her siblings will be safe. He realizes that if she fails to control her emotions, it is already too late. Abruptly, arcs of electricity begin to swirl around the group. The collective consensus is that the energy is on the verge of erupting. Lucia warns everyone to exercise caution. Suyak yells a specific warning to Mirror, alerting her that the threat is approaching from her side. Without warning, a sword descends from the sky, causing Lucia to fear for Mirror. Helena also expresses concern regarding Mirror's safety. The falling blade grazes Mirror's arm, inflicting a minor wound that begins to bleed. Mirror offers her gratitude to Helena for the assistance that saved her life. Lucia rushes to Mirror's side, inquiring about the condition of her injured arm. Helena commands Lucia to proceed immediately to the orphanage, an instruction to which Lucia responds affirmatively. Helena then orders Dominic to look after Bishop Hilda, reasoning that since Bishop Dominic is generally well trusted, he should be capable of handling the task. Helena announces that the remaining members will head to the orphanage, adding that if the vampire causes any disturbances, she will hold Mirror accountable. Mirror acknowledges and accepts this responsibility. Cecilia sprints toward the director's office, claiming she predicted this outcome because the fugitive is a vampire on the level of a Nanayama Yakuza sect leader, and such a creature cannot change its true nature. She asserts that if any incident occurs, the fault lies entirely with Mirror. Suddenly, she spots Lucia standing outside a door. Cecilia questions the urgency and wonders why Lucia is lingering there. Upon reaching the orphanage room, Cecilia is horrified by a vision of all the children lying dead, fearing she has arrived too late. She begins shouting at the vampire, demanding to know what it has done. However, as she physically enters the room, she is startled to discover Coco playing with a child who is happily riding on her back. Another child informs Cecilia that she must wait in line if she wants a turn. Realizing the gruesome scene was merely her imagination, Cecilia observes that all the children are actually alive and happy in Coco's company. Witnessing this scene leads Cecilia to question whether this creature is truly a squad leader. Mirror runs into the room and immediately questions Coco regarding her activities with the children. Noticing the blood on Mirror's arm, Coco becomes overly excited and eagerly begs for just a sip, but Mirror refuses her without hesitation. Cecilia firmly remarks to Mirror that she is well aware of the situation, asserting that the creature is clearly demonstrating its vampiric nature. Despite the rejection, Coco continues to plead for the blood, prompting Mirror to halt her sharply and question her behavior. Undeterred, Cecilia remains resolute in her decision to eliminate Coco. She orders Mirror to move away from the vampire, leaving Coco confused by the command. Coco clarifies that Suyak specifically instructed her not to drink the blood of others. Cecilia is surprised to observe that the creature is under control despite being a vampire. Mirror wonders if she is the only exception regarding the blood consumption rule. Just as Cecilia prepares to attack Coco, Dominic grabs her hand, reminding her that the children are watching and instructing her to withdraw her powers. Hilda rushes into the room, expressing concern for the safety of the children. The children are delighted to see Hilda and call out her name. She expresses her relief that they are safe and inquires about their well-being. The children report that Coco played with them and that they had an enjoyable time. Just then, Mirror instructs Coco to wait a moment, but Coco insists that she is unwilling to wait any longer. The children point to Coco, describing how the girl with red eyes played with them, even allowing them to ride on her back, which was a source of great fun. Overcome with emotion, Hilda begins to cry as she looks at Coco. She quickly embraces Mirror and offers an apology, expressing regret that Mirror was injured because of her. Mirror comforts her, explaining that she understands Hilda was merely worried about her siblings and that the injury was unintentional, so there is no need to worry. Hilda extends her thanks to Coco as well. While Coco continues to plead for just a single sip of blood from Mirror, Suyak enters the room, strikes her on the head, and warns her that she has done enough. Back in the meeting room, Helena announces the results, stating it has been confirmed that the two vampires are controllable. With the majority of bishops in agreement, they will proceed with the operation of an experimental unit that includes vampires. She asks her team if there are any objections. Cecilia confirms that there is no dissent. Helena ratifies the decision and removes Suyak's handcuffs, although Coco persists in trying to take a sip of blood from Mirror's arm. Helena proceeds to appoint Mirror as the squad leader of the new team. Finally, Helena declares the bishops' meeting concluded. Hilda bids Mirror farewell until next time. As she leaves, Lucia notes Mirror's injuries and advises her not to overexert herself, offering her assistance should it be needed. Lucia adds that if the vampires cause any trouble, Mirror should let her know, and she will fly over immediately to handle it. Mirror assures her that everything is fine. Cecilia also warns her to be careful. From a short distance away, Cecilia calls out Mirror's name, prompting both Mirror and Suyak to wonder what she wants now. Cecilia reminds her that the true mission of their crusade is to save people from vampires. She vows that if the time comes when those scum violate that noble mission, she will annihilate them all to fulfill her duties. As she departs, she warns Mirror to keep a close watch on them. Meanwhile, in a bar in Vladivostok, Russia, men are drinking. An individual enters and approaches the counter, remarking to the old man, Ivan, that it has been a long time. The visitor states that he requires Ivan's assistance. The old man expresses disappointment, noting that he is only contacted during such times. He then asks if the visitor has forgotten that he is the one who gouged out his eye. This old man is identified as Ivan, a mafia boss. Ivan asserts that he will never forget the day he lost both his boss and his eye to this man. 4 members of Ivan's gang place guns against the young man's head. Ivan questions the audacity he possesses to come looking for him. The old man addresses the visitor by the name Suyak. Ivan questions the reason for Suyak's presence in Russia. The protagonist recalls the briefing from Dominic, who had indicated that a deployment to Russia was necessary because the Yakuza involved in the recent hotel raid exhibited signs of vampirism. Consequently, autopsies were performed. However, contrary to their suspicions, the deceased were confirmed to be entirely human. Nevertheless, a peculiar anomaly was discovered. Traces of a drug apparently linked to supernatural abilities were detected in their systems. This substance matched the drug found in the bodies of mafia members who had annihilated the Russian branch a month prior. Furthermore, the Nanayama Yakuza's movements within Russia have been tracked, necessitating an investigation into both Anna and this mysterious drug. Dominic has secured accommodation to ensure the mission can commence without delay. Inside the Vladivostok branch of the hotel affiliated with the Crusade Alliance, Mirror occupies the sofa, while Coco sits on the floor directly in front of her, mimicking the posture of a cat. Suyak then enters the room. Mirror comments on his clean appearance, noting that she had expected him to return only after causing a significant commotion. He reveals that he has obtained the location of the Nanayama hideout. He adds that he has already formulated an operational strategy and intends to explain it immediately, urging her to fully grasp the details. Mirror wonders how he managed to extract information so easily from a man whose eye he had previously gouged out. Suyak points out that Ivan desires an attack on that specific business, noting that the Nanayama Yakuza and Ivan represent hostile opposing forces. He instructs her to listen closely, and upon hearing his scheme, she expresses delight, remarking that the plan is exactly what one would expect from a top agent. She consents to the operation and inquires about her specific role, while also asking if any alternative strategies were considered. He maintains that, under the present circumstances, this approach is the most viable option. However, Mirror is dissatisfied with her disguise, which consists of a wig and contact lenses. Suyak, appearing quite dashing, clarifies that disguises are essential for a squad containing vampires. He rhetorically asks if she would prefer to enter a club wearing a priest's robe and brandishing a greatsword. Furthermore, he argues that given her injuries, this method is the best option. Mirror remains visibly annoyed by her outfit. She clarifies that while the wig and lenses are acceptable, the dress is excessively short, leaving her undergarments exposed. At the entrance of the nightclub, a guard intercepts them, questioning Coco's attire, which consists of casual clothing, sunglasses, and slippers. The guard states that her entry is difficult due to the regulations. Mirror, unable to understand Russian, asks Suyak what the man is saying. Abruptly, Coco unzips her shirt to reveal her cleavage. Upon witnessing this, the guard permits them to proceed inside. Mirror reacts with surprise. Suyak confirms that everyone has gained entry and expresses his hope that each member will carry out their assigned task. At this precise moment, the operation commences. Mirror is taken aback by the interior of the club, observing men and women participating in lewd behavior. Visibly distressed, she angrily denounces them as corrupt degenerates. She questions how she is expected to blend into such an environment and is unsure of her next move. While these thoughts occupy her mind, a hand suddenly touches her shoulder, startling her. Instinctively, she cries out the name of Jesus Christ in surprise. A man standing behind her catches her off guard with a smooth greeting, calling her beautiful. The fact that he speaks English adds to her shock. He asks if they have a private room and invites her to accompany him there. As Mirror hesitates, unsure of how to react, the man seizes her hand and begins dragging her toward a room. She shouts at him to release her immediately. Elsewhere, Suyak walks through the corridors, pondering why there seems to be no need for a heavy troop deployment. He observes that there is not even a single soul in sight. Continuing his walk, he reaches a dead end at the deepest part of the facility, finding it empty. However, he senses someone standing directly behind him. Upon turning around, he finds a large group of men staring him down. He instantly recognizes that he has walked into a trap. Ivan stands behind the group of men. Ivan informs Suyak that he has been waiting for this specific day. He explains that Lady Katrina made a promise. If Ivan hands Suyak over to her, she will allow him to become the boss of this territory in return. He warns Suyak that it would be in his best interest to follow them quietly. Ivan further warns him that everyone present is armed with silver ammunition. He taunts Suyak regarding his female companion, instructing him not to worry because they have already planned to drug her drink and subsequently assault her. Ivan expresses hope that his men have already initiated that part of the operation, declaring that Suyak is finished. However, before surrendering him to Katrina, Ivan notes that they still have a personal score to settle. He draws a knife, expressing his intent to destroy Suyak's remaining eye. Suyak recalls the moment he informed Mirror that he had secured the location of the Nanayama Yakuza's business. He remembers her warning that it was suspicious for Ivan to yield information so easily, considering Suyak was the one who gouged out his eye. The narrative was that the enemy wanted them to raid the location, because the Nanayama Yakuza and Ivan were hostile forces. Suyak understood at the time that the enemy manipulated them into believing that specific narrative. He reasoned that if they pretended to be deceived and went to the location, it would inevitably lead to a trap where the enemy would corner them and declare their end without hesitation. Back in the present, Suyak is pleased that they have followed his plan exactly. Ivan questions what he just said. The protagonist reflects that upon receiving the assignment to eliminate Anna, he conducted thorough research on the enemy. He discovered that when distributing their merchandise, the group avoids collaborating with other existing forces. Instead of collaborating, the Nanayama Yakuza simply absorbs rival factions. Their merchandise was already being traded within Ivan's territory. Ivan questions whether his adversary was aware of everything, including the fact that his own organization had been swallowed by the Yakuza. Fearful that Suyak still possesses the lethality to wipe them out, Ivan commands his subordinates to riddle the man with bullets. The mafia members open fire, but the protagonist charges directly toward Ivan and his crew. Observing the direct assault, Ivan becomes terrified. Although the corridor is filled with a hail of silver bullets, where a single hit would slow the target down, Ivan witnesses Suyak deflecting the projectiles with his knife. In a split second, the assailant closes the distance and begins eliminating the henchmen one by one. Concurrently, Coco is performing on the dance floor, capturing everyone's attention. Having neutralized all the mafia members, Suyak signals to Coco that it is time to depart. He instructs her to track the scent of Mirror's blood. She leaps from the stage and sprints in the direction of Mirror. Slumped against a wall, injured and surrounded by his dead subordinates, Ivan warns Suyak that he has made a grave error. He deduces that Suyak is attempting to uncover their post-kidnapping procedures. Ivan mocks him as a fool for sending a female comrade directly into enemy territory. He asserts that she will never learn their pre-supply methods. He claims that by this time, Suyak's partner should be unconscious, completely incapacitated. Suyak shoots Ivan in the shoulder, admonishing him to remember who he is dealing with and questioning his composure. He states that this is not the moment to worry about others, assuring Ivan that there is no need for concern regarding the woman. Instead, Ivan should be worried about his own subordinates. When one of Ivan's men attempts to grab her hand, she instantly fractures his wrist and incapacitates the group trying to drag her into the room. The men stationed outside the club quickly realize they have walked into an ambush and shout warnings to their cohorts, but it is Mirror who launches the offensive against them. Using powerful kicks, she effortlessly tosses the men aside. A shiny object attached to her heel allows her to eliminate them with ease. She recalls Suyak's advice during the planning phase, where he warned her that these adversaries would employ tricks to render her unconscious. Her assignment is to feign susceptibility to their trap, thereby allowing them to transport her to their actual base of operations. Once there, Coco will track her location, and she is simply required to await his arrival. She also remembers asking how he could be certain they would approach her. His response regarding the necessary attire left her without a counter-argument. After such exertion, she has begun to bleed again, and his warning echoes in her mind. She must remember her injuries, avoid overexertion, and wait patiently. Mirror wonders if the absence of signals is due to being underground. Adhering to Suyak's plan, she focuses on waiting. In the midst of the silence, she clearly hears a voice announce that this is the final one. Upon hearing the word last, she realizes that there are undoubtedly others who were captured before her arrival, and she surmises that they may be enduring horrific suffering at this very moment. Mentally apologizing to Suyak, she recalls Cecilia's earlier admonition. She reflects that the true mission of their core is to rescue humans from vampires, regardless of whether a living hell awaits them below. She resolves that she must save the people. Consequently, she begins walking toward the secret room downstairs, reasoning that as a member of the Vatican, it is her duty to assist others. As she descends, she questions why the enemy is kidnapping so many individuals. She notes that while numerous vehicles departed from the club, only a few actually arrived at this location. From this, she deduces that there must be additional sites where the kidnapped victims are being transported. She ponders their ultimate purpose, questioning the presence of operating rooms and multiple prison cells, as well as the strange absence of personnel. Abruptly, she discovers a red test tube filled with liquid, explicitly labeled as blood. She finds this discovery quite intriguing. Suddenly, Katrina appears and demands to know how she arrived there. The antagonist notes that all human women should have been secured in coffins by this time. Standing directly behind Mirror, Katrina questions the intruder's identity. Mirror is startled by how the enemy managed to approach her from behind without making a sound, instantly recognizing her as the leader of the Nanayama Yakuza. She questions the misfortune of encountering the leader at a moment when she is both unarmed and injured. Mirror begins to pray, asking God that even if her life is to end according to his will, she be granted the strength to fulfill her duty until her final breath. At this point, she identifies herself to Katrina as Mirror, a bishop of the Vatican Special Task Force. Katrina recognizes her, recalling that Mirror was the woman previously seen embracing Suyak, and summons her snakes. Mirror resolves that if she falls, Suyak will handle the rest, and she launches an attack against Katrina. Simultaneously, Coco tracks Mirror's scent and indicates that she is located directly beneath their feet. Coco realizes that this subterranean area is their true base of operations. The protagonist hopes to rendezvous with Mirror, but Coco informs him that she is uncertain about the trail from this point forward. He asks if she is unable to smell Mirror's blood. She clarifies that the situation is quite the opposite. Coco points toward a door, explaining that an overwhelming stench of blood emanates from behind it. She wonders what they are planning, noting that the quantity of blood is excessive. He discovers Mirror's phone lying on the floor. He listens to a voice message she left, in which she apologizes for deviating from the plan. She explains that upon realizing there were hostages, she felt compelled to move, reiterating that the task force's primary mission is to save people from vampires. She upholds the belief that saving civilians takes precedence over their own lives or the safety of the task force, expressing hope that he will execute the mission without failure. As his comrade, she places her full trust in him. Suyak instructs Coco to pick up the pace. However, Coco expresses visible concern, insisting that they need to regroup with Mirror. Suyak questions the reason for her distress. Coco points out that the area carries the same scent they encountered when meeting Red. He is shocked by the implication that a vampire is present, realizing she means the leader is nearby. Suyak asks Coco to estimate their numbers and whether the specific individual is the leader. Coco replies that she does not know. He observes that she is exhibiting sudden symptoms of panic and anxiety, recognizing them as typical signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. He decides that they cannot afford to delay any longer. He reflects that while the dangers below are unknown, Mirror is certainly in peril. He notes that something feels wrong, as the facility shows no indications of recent usage. Terrified, Coco clings to his arm, pleading to return and stating her dislike for the location. He urges Coco to endure a little longer, promising to extract both the kidnapped civilians and Mirror. He acknowledges that the task is difficult, but encourages her to continue using her detection abilities. Suddenly, he discovers bloodstains on the floor. He interprets the drag marks, which show no signs of struggle, as evidence that the hostages were drugged. He tells Coco that if they follow the trail, they will find the people, asking her to hold on just a bit more. He assures her that their exit is imminent. However, Coco identifies the blood as belonging to Mirror. Suyak instantly comprehends that she has been captured. Both begin sprinting in Mirror's direction. He wonders if she encountered the leader, recalling his warning for her not to overexert herself due to her injury. He prays for her safety. Drawing his gun, he enters the room and is stunned to discover numerous women imprisoned inside large glass jars filled with liquid. He questions the nature of this place and the atrocities being committed. He wonders if they are conducting human experiments and questions why they are injecting a red substance into the girls. Coco remarks that the substance hurt Ayaka, adding that her friend hated the red liquid. He questions whether this is the facility where Ayaka and Coco were originally drugged. At that moment, the realization strikes him. He deduces that these individuals are kidnapping people to perform experiments aimed at creating vampires, and the drug being injected is likely the specific substance they have been searching for. If they manage to rescue everyone and investigate the facility, they might discover the true objective of these adversaries. However, the immediate priority is to locate Mirror. Consequently, he commands Coco to continue searching for her. Suddenly, Katrina's voice interrupts them, remarking that if he is speaking of Mirror, she might be referring to the person she is currently suspending in midair with her serpent. He instantly aims his gun at Katrina, demanding to know what she has done to his comrade. Katrina advises him to remain calm, clarifying that she has no intention of killing the captive just yet. She explains that her true desire is not the girl's body. Rather, she intends to contact him when she is prepared to exchange mirror for him. He shouts back, accusing her of speaking nonsense. Katrina warns him that they are destined to meet again regardless, so he should not pursue her. She suggests that he attempt to save the others instead. She notes that since the location has been exposed and the death squad is en route, her group has concluded their business there. Consequently, she announces her plan to destroy the facility completely. Expressing that it is a shame, she bids him farewell until their next encounter. Suyok attempts to tell her to wait. He orders Coco to snap out of her daze, noticing that she is picking up a scent. He calculates that if he chases after Katrina immediately, he might be able to rescue Mirror. However, he also considers that even if he delays saving Mirror, Katrina does not plan to kill her yet, intending to use her as leverage for a future exchange. Recalling Katrina's words, he realizes that the imprisoned test subjects will certainly perish if he does not intervene immediately. Faced with a critical decision, he remembers Mirror's voice message stating that the task force's mission is to save people from vampires, a duty that supersedes her own life or the safety of the squad. She had expressed her hope that he would fulfill this mission, placing her trust in him. Consumed by anger, he begins shattering the glass containers to free the victims, but a massive explosion suddenly engulfs the hall. In the aftermath, the hero finds himself sitting against a wall, filled with sorrow and guilt regarding Mirror's abduction. He laments that Katrina managed to take her, leaving him to save the others. It was a narrow escape, and he is distressed to find that they failed to save anyone except for a single girl. He recalls that she was the only subject who had been looking at him from within the glass container, possessing distinct red eyes. She is the sole survivor among the test subjects. While the explosion injured everyone, she was the only one whose wounds healed rapidly, leading him to understand that she is successfully transformed into a vampire. When the girl wakes up, she thanks him, but immediately implores him to end her life. She reveals that she was a nun dedicated to serving God, and feels her body has now been defiled. Remembering that Suyok administered his blood to revive her, she declares that she does not wish to live if it means surviving by consuming the blood of others. She begins to beg him for death. He informs her that their duty is to protect everyone from vampires and that they do not kill the victims. Upon understanding his refusal, she suddenly seizes a shard of broken glass and attempts to drive it into her heart. He reflects on how confusing it must be to suddenly transform into a vampire overnight, noting that he endured the same experience. He speaks to her while gripping her hands, physically preventing her from taking her own life. He recounts that when he turned into a vampire, a member of the Order appeared before him and provided him with a renewed reason to live. He explains that the woman who saved her prioritized the lives of others above her own. Consequently, the life she managed to preserve is the girl's. He expresses certainty that she will eventually discover her own purpose for living, but until then, he encourages her not to give up and to live for their sake, if nothing else. Weeping, the girl discards the sharp shard of glass, leaps toward him, and embraces him tightly, crying with the abandonment of a child. Suyok thinks of Mirror, acknowledging that they succeeded in saving at least one person, just as she had intended. He resolves to save her as well. Focusing his thoughts on her, he mentally pleads for her to remain safe. Several hours earlier, while standing beside the unconscious Mirror, Katrina voices her impatience, insisting that they should simply kill the captive. She questions the utility of keeping the bishop alive, arguing that since she is already in custody, they ought to finish her off. She reasons that by doing so, they could easily lure Suyok in and capture him as well. However, Anna, acting as the one in command, firmly instructs Katrina to obey her, citing that she already has a plan. Adopting a sharp tone, Anna warns her that, unlike Katrina, she actually utilizes her intellect, mockingly referring to her as a fool obsessed with men. As Anna continues to speak, a visibly irritated Katrina interrupts, warning her not to underestimate her. One of Katrina's snakes suddenly lunges at Anna, but Anna kills it instantly with her bare hand, reminding Katrina that she has not finished speaking. Enraged, Katrina reiterates her warning, emphasizing that she had already told her not to belittle her. Without hesitation, Katrina launches a full-scale assault, yet Anna overpowers her with ease. Looking down at her, Anna taunts Katrina, suggesting she has become arrogant after consuming a small amount of blood. She remarks that Katrina has become cuter during her absence, but claims she would have already killed her were it not for specific orders. Suddenly, Katrina feels a sharp pain as a snake bites her leg, leaving her in disbelief. Without hesitation, She transforms one of her arms into a mass of writhing serpents, declaring that she never received such orders. Fueled by fury, she unleashes all her snakes in an all-out attack, vowing that anyone who dares to anger her will die. However, the woman remains unfazed, mockingly asking if the object on her shoulders is merely for decoration. When Katrina glances at her shoulders, she is horrified to discover that all her snakes have vanished. She questions how a mere 5th squad leader and the 3rd squad leader, Lily, could inflict this upon her. Katrina realizes that her opponent is on an entirely different level, contemplating the terrifying power of a vampire at that advanced stage. Katrina insults the woman, calling her a jerk. She asserts that Suyak has been promised to her and that she will tolerate the other woman's presence until that time comes. As she begins to leave the area, she inquires about the plans for the captive girl. The woman informs Katrina that effective pest control involves more than simply catching whatever happens to be directly in front of one's eyes. Suyak takes the girl to his room and explains to her that if she wishes to exterminate their entire kind, she must target the nest. At that moment, a powerful bishop enters the room, holding a gun which he points directly at Suyak's head. It becomes apparent that this bishop is possessed by Katrina and is acting on her behalf. He relays a message from Katrina to Suyak. Suyak is left wondering how she managed to achieve such a feat. The bishop delivers the message stating that the woman is being held in a location known only to Katrina and that Suyak must go there tonight. He throws a letter at Suyak, issuing a warning that if he does not arrive alone, the woman will be killed. He adds that she will be waiting for him. Immediately after delivering the ultimatum, the bishop shoots himself in the head, dying instantly and effectively destroying the evidence. Other bishops rush toward the scene, confused by the man's final words. It becomes clear to them that the enemy is even aware of their specific location. Coco stares at the dead bishop and the gunshot wound, suggesting that they should clean up the mess first. The other team members remark to Suyak that they have no alternative but to accede to the enemy's demands. Coco reveals that the individual used by Katrina carries the scent of Mirror. They deduce that for the operative to carry that scent, he must have been involved in moving Mirror very recently. Suyak asks if Coco is able to locate Mirror immediately, to which she replies that she can track the scent. He proposes a plan where he confronts Katrina while Coco rescues Mirror, after which they will regroup. Coco immediately rejects this idea, insisting that she will pursue Katrina herself because that jerk was responsible for killing Ayaka. Maintaining his composure, Suyak acknowledges her desire for revenge, but explains that without Mirror, the task force will attempt to kill them. He emphasizes that just as Ayaka was precious to her, Mirror and Coco are currently the most precious people to him. With a serious expression, he asks if she is capable of saving Mirror. After a brief pause, Coco agrees to the plan, turning and sprinting toward the direction of Mirror's scent. As she departs, she reminds him once again that Katrina belongs to her to kill. Suyak watches her leave before addressing his team, instructing them to investigate the identity of the task force member who was possessed and to provide backup for Coco. He firmly states that he will personally handle the rescue mission regarding Mirror. As he exits the room, he reminds his team that Mirror will make the final decision on how to deal with the new vampire later. For the time being, he orders them to monitor the girl closely. His team acknowledges the command without hesitation. Turning his gaze toward the new girl, he firmly instructs her to stay put. With a calm tone, she responds with a simple assent. Suyak's thoughts drift to Coco, realizing that she is likely eager to rush toward the person responsible for her precious friend's death. He muses that she should hurry, as he cannot guarantee that he will allow that woman to survive long enough for her to arrive. Suyak arrives at a church under the cover of night and steps inside. Katrina welcomes him, chiding him for being late to their wedding. Adorned in a bridal gown, she points out the numerous guests who have gathered for the ceremony, all of whom are vampires. She inquisitively remarks on the groom's tardiness. Glaring at Katrina, he dismisses her with a vulgarity before immediately opening fire, aiming for the heads of her guests. When a vampire ambushes him from the rear, he evades the strike and counters, effectively eliminating the attacker. Another vampire brandishes a firearm, but before the creature can pull the trigger, Suyak incapacitates him with a kick and subsequently shoots him dead. Utilizing a fallen vampire as a human shield against incoming fire, he continues his barrage. After neutralizing the majority of the hostiles, his ammunition runs dry. An armed vampire attempts to shoot him, but Suyak utilizes his superior speed to dodge the projectile and dispatches the enemy with his knife. He proceeds to eliminate another foe with the blade. Turning his attention to Katrina, he warns her that the games have ended and demands she reveal Mirror's location immediately. Conversely, Katrina remains relaxed, Openly admiring his ferocity, she advises him to settle down, clarifying that she did not summon him for combat. She issues a warning that her death would ensure Mirror's demise as well, asserting that the only method to save his comrade is for him to spend their wedding night with her. She then nestles his gun between her breasts. Katrina reveals that during her time as a human, her sole reason for existing was intimacy. She lived only to feel the skin and heartbeats of another. It made her feel alive, and she would have surrendered her soul if asked, simply to maintain that feeling forever. Additionally, she desired eternal beauty and immortality. Eventually, she received an offer to grant her those desires. It was Anna who presented the opportunity after slaughtering Katrina's entire village, with the condition that she could only accept it if she possessed the strength to endure. Consequently, she transformed into a vampire. Anna provided a few drops of her own blood for Katrina to consume, thereby granting her eternal life. Following her transformation, she began to indulge in intimacy with numerous young, strong men. However, after these encounters, she would kill them and consume their blood. She evolved into a beautiful monster who devoured the hearts of young men. She recalls the moment she murdered her second victim following their intimacy. As she lay beside him, drenched in his blood, she realized that this was not what she truly desired. Just as before, the sensation of being alive eluded her. Ultimately, she concluded that only another vampire could fill the void within her. However, the experiments remained stagnant. She remembers a specific instance when someone knocked at her door. She instructed the visitor not to address her by a certain title in that place. In response, the individual informed her that they had finally located him. She is informed that the male vampire goes by the name Suyok, leading her to speculate on the type of man he is. She reasons that, as a fellow vampire, he should certainly possess the stamina to satisfy her, and she hopes that his physical appearance is equally pleasing. It is revealed that Katrina maintains a substantial collection of severed male heads in her home, belonging to men she had previously taken as lovers and subsequently killed. She explains to him that eternal existence is tediously boring, suggesting that he should abandon his quest for vengeance and simply remain with her. She assures him that she will take the lead in their interactions and claims to be quite skilled at it. At this moment, she begins to lick the barrel of his gun, telling him there is no need to be shy. He rejects her advance, stating that a woman who is a century older than him is too much for him to handle. She retorts by calling him an impudent bastard. With her bare hands, Katrina crushes his firearm and reveals that she had intended to make him her husband as a special privilege. Consumed by rage, she declares that she will instead use him as a toy for all eternity. Meanwhile, inside a hospital, a member of the Yakuza instructs his cohorts that they are protecting Lady Katrina and must defend the corridor against all intruders, particularly those from the Vatican. Suddenly, Coco enters the hallway, moving with the grace of a feline. One of the Yakuza questions whether she is a dog of the Vatican, to which she innocently replies that she does not speak English. She then sits on the floor, mimicking the posture of a cat. The Yakuza members converse among themselves, perceiving her to be somewhat dim-witted. Without warning, they open fire on her, but she sprints with immense speed, attacking and killing two of them before they can discharge a single bullet in her direction. She yells at the three remaining men, warning them to stay out of her way. However, these men aim their weapons and resume firing. Coco, displaying incredible speed and energy, leaps into the air and eliminates all three of them in a split second. Shortly thereafter, she enters the operating theater, where a doctor is instructing his team to secure as many subjects as possible, labeling them as important samples. Coco exclaims that she has located Mirror. Finding Mirror in a special care unit, Coco is confronted by the doctor, who demands to know her business and orders her to leave immediately. Refusing to comply, Coco knocks him unconscious with a single punch. Coco then hoists Mirror onto her back and attempts to exit the hospital. Other doctors protest, insisting she cannot take the patient. Coco realizes she must depart quickly. She recalls Suyok's words. He had told her that while he understood her desire for revenge, both she and Mirror were currently the most precious people to him, and her priority must be to save Mirror and return to him. She also recalls her own declaration to him, reminding him not to forget that she is the one destined to kill Katrina. Suddenly, a woman calls out Coco's name, asking if she remembers her, noting that a long time has passed since their last encounter. The woman inquires if Coco intends to take the captive, admonishing her that she ought to ask for permission before taking something that belongs to another. Coco questions the identity of the woman before her. Meanwhile, Katrina's serpents attempt to strike the protagonist, but he shoots them down one by one. He reflects that the situation feels reminiscent of a past event. Her strategy relies on attrition, planning to endure until he becomes exhausted as the severed heads regenerate repeatedly to wear him down. Nevertheless, he persists in shooting at the snakes. Katrina mocks him, remarking that he appears to be firing into empty space and seems desperate. She assumes that between the rising poisonous fog and the relentless approach of the snakes, both his mind and body must be reaching their breaking point. She decides that this is the precise moment to hunt. She asserts that struggling is futile for him since he already belongs to her. However, Suyok reveals that she has fallen for his trap. She is confused by what he means. As she closes the distance, he draws his silver knife and attacks, slicing her across the face. She questions what sort of man he is, convinced that his mental state is far from normal. He declares that it is over for her. As her face begins to swell, she releases more poison into the air. He counters by cutting through the poisonous mist with his knife. Her snakes vanish and she clutches her bleeding face. She curses him, calling him an impudent bastard for playing games with her. It is revealed that his erratic shooting was intended to disperse the poisonous clouds, and his feigned panic was a ploy to expose a vulnerability and lure her closer. Having analyzed her entire strategy during their single encounter at the hotel, he warns her to surrender, noting that she has nowhere left to hide. She insults him, furious that he dared to leave a scar on her face. Furthermore, she realizes the mark will not fade. Enraged, Katrina shouts that she will no longer show any mercy. He observes the snakes gathering around him, confirming his suspicions that they are collecting blood. Realizing he cannot afford to delay before she absorbs everything, he prepares to act, but a snake suddenly bites his arm. The attack's speed surprises him, leaving him unable to react in time. She declares that the fight is finished. She threatens to tear off his limbs if necessary, promising to keep him alive while she tortures him. The snake coils around his neck, its grip tightening progressively. She taunts him, stating that it is too early for him to feel pain since she has not even begun. Suyuk realizes he is immobilized. Summoning all his strength, he severs his own arm to escape the snake's hold and leaps a significant distance away. Slumped against a wall, he tells himself that he must maintain his composure. He acknowledges that if he breaks now, he will fail to avenge his teammates and will never be able to reach Anna. He realizes that he cannot stop now. However, Katrina strikes him with a spear that pierces his chest. His hearing fades into silence, and he questions whether his strength is insufficient. Deep within his heart, he offers a silent apology to both Coco and Mirror. Katrina admonishes him, stating that he ought to have heeded her words when she was showing kindness. She questions why he insists on being such a nuisance. She proceeds to suspend him against the church wall, assuring him that he need not worry since he is not going to die regardless of the injury. She observes that the scar on her face has yet to heal. Nevertheless, she dismisses the concern, reasoning that she has secured Suyuk and the sun will rise shortly. She decides that she should return and enjoy a meal. Returning her attention to him, she wonders if he retains consciousness. She taunts him, remarking that he requires at least that level of resilience to satisfy her. Suyuk strains in an effort to free himself from the wall. Katrina is puzzled, curious as to why he continues to struggle in such a situation. Abruptly, the protagonist's eyes shift to a crimson hue. Witnessing this transformation, Katrina feels a surge of fear, questioning if he truly possesses those specific eyes. In an instant, Suyuk's severed hands regenerate. Katrina's fear intensifies as she realizes his speed now surpasses hers, indicating that he has become stronger than her. He extracts the weapon from his chest and leaps back onto the ground. His injuries heal with remarkable speed. Launching a single attack, he severs her arm and declares that he will never acknowledge her. Katrina observes him in shock, realizing that she was completely unable to react to his previous strike. Delivering a single punch, he sends her flying a significant distance. At this moment, his appearance resembles that of a monster. She deems it impossible for him to have acquired such strength in a span of only a few months. Regaining her footing, Katrina calls him lucky, asserting that had she possessed abilities similar to his, she would have achieved her awakening long ago. The two combatants charge at each other, but this time, Suyuk proves to be far superior in strength. She becomes frightened upon seeing the ease with which he counters her techniques. Fatigue begins to set in for her, yet the protagonist continues his relentless assault, attacking repeatedly with immense speed and power. Concluding that victory in close-quarters combat is impossible, she decides to create distance between them. She attempts to leap away, but Suyuk seizes her hand and slams her into the ground with such force that she loses consciousness for a few seconds. As he stands directly before her, she acknowledges his overwhelming strength, realizing that she is still far beneath his level. Despite this, she attempts to retrieve her sword using her snakes. Upon securing the weapon, She strikes him in the face, driving the blade deep into his eye. Katrina asserts that regardless of his strength, such an injury should prove fatal. However, the protagonist proves to be a true monster. With a single punch, he drives his arm completely through her abdomen. She repeatedly refers to him as a monster, finally accepting that, as she suspected, defeating him is impossible. Elsewhere, Lily enters the room, introducing herself as Lily, the newly appointed leader of the third squad. The other female vampire present asks to be treated well from that point forward. However, she questions Lily's identity and inquires why she has claimed the title of third squad leader. Lily observes the other woman's red eye, wondering why she possesses such a feature. It appears the woman is quite sensitive regarding her eye. Lily speculates whether it has not yet awakened. Suddenly, Lily punches the woman in the red eye, advising her not to be arrogant. Lily explains that she was merely making a comment. The narrative questions the identity of this woman and whether she holds the rank of a squad leader as well. Subsequently, the two engage in a physical altercation, exchanging punches. The red-eyed vampire asserts that power dictates order and that the weak do not deserve to exist. She pins Lily to the ground and issues a warning, demanding to know if Lily comprehends her statement. Lily reflects that a simple look into the woman's eyes conveys the message clearly. In any situation, the strong inevitably prevail. Inside the church, the battle between Katrina and Suyok continues. Suyok dominates the fight, inflicting severe damage until she suddenly insults him, calling him an insolent brat and shouting at him to stop looking down on her. Unleashing all her snakes simultaneously, she flings him a considerable distance away. She reflects that a significant amount of time has passed since she last utilized this specific power. As the protagonist rises to his feet, Katrina remarks that she dislikes using this form because it compromises her appearance. However, since he has witnessed it, she decides he must be killed. Katrina undergoes a transformation, becoming a massive hybrid entity, half human and half snake, standing opposite Suyok. The two charge at one another. Suddenly, she projects her venom at him, declaring that his end has arrived. She asserts that despite his rapid regeneration, she intends to obliterate him entirely. She explains that the venom dissolving his body will vaporize, melting him down to the very last cell, ensuring he dies writhing in agony. The toxin begins to affect Suyok, dissolving his flesh completely within seconds. She comments that they are finally on equal footing, despite his gifted abilities, and mocks him for believing he could defeat her, calling him pathetic. As she attempts to exit the church, she senses a presence standing behind her. Curious about the situation, she wonders why the target has not yet melted down to the bone. To her astonishment, Suyok has returned and is poised to punch her in the face. She questions whether his rate of regeneration exceeds the speed at which he is melting. Outside the church, Coco arrives in a vehicle, shouting for him to endure. Sitting beside Coco, Mira warns her against sticking her head out the window. Coco yells to Suyok that she is coming and that the enemy is dead. Mira experiences dizziness, wondering how long she had been unconscious. She realizes she retains no memory of events following her encounter with the men underground. Mira reflects that if Coco's assessment is accurate and Suyok pursued the squad leader alone, he is in grave danger. She mentally urges Suyok to endure a little longer. Upon their arrival at the church, Coco leaps from the vehicle and immediately sprints into the building. Mira instructs her team to hold their position for the time being. Coco calls out to Suyok, questioning whether he has already defeated the enemy. When they enter the sanctuary, they observe that the interior has been completely devastated. Recognizing this destruction as the result of the 5th squad leader's ability, Mira advises Coco that it is best not to approach too closely. However, the most pressing question for both of them remains the whereabouts of Suyok. Suddenly, Katrina notices the girls. She questions their presence, recalling that it was Lily's responsibility to keep them under surveillance. Her distraction lasts only a second, but it allows Suyok to land a punch squarely on her face. This time, the impact creates massive wounds, prompting her to curse him as a cockroach and wish for his immediate death. Katrina finds herself suspended in midair. Meanwhile, Mira is filled with worry for the protagonist. Katrina warns Mira to remain silent, declaring that she will be the next victim. Although Katrina remains puzzled as to how they managed to bypass Lily, she resolves to eliminate everyone present first and analyze the situation later. Suyok marshals all his power and launches an assault against her. Believing she can obliterate them with a maximum concentration of venom, she decides this is the end and projects the potent toxin directly at him. When the venom strikes, she is confused, wondering if he has vanished. It is revealed that this phenomenon was not Suyok's doing, but rather an ability stemming from the red-eyed Lily. Katrina questions whether Lady Anna has given Lily permission to eliminate both her and her useless friend. It appears that Suyok's development is proceeding exactly according to Lady Anna's plan. Lily asserts that power dictates order, and that the weak do not deserve to live, asking if Katrina fails to comprehend her words. Ultimately, the protagonist seizes the opportunity to bite Katrina's neck from behind. Katrina realizes that, much like Ayaka and Coco, she too has been abandoned. Unwilling to let everything be stripped away in this manner, she screams at Suyok to release her as he drains blood from her neck. Although her snake bites him from behind, she fears that everything is slipping away far too rapidly. She questions if this is how she dies, lamenting that she never desired any of this. She only wanted to live a happy life. She mentally addresses Anna, asking why she was gifted blood if this was to be the outcome, pleading that she does not want to die yet and is not ready. Following this, Katrina collapses to the floor. Mira acknowledges that Suyok successfully defeated the squad leader single-handedly, but she worries that in his current state, he might inadvertently harm someone. She ponders what her next course of action should be. Abruptly, Coco leaps towards Suyok and wraps her arms around him in a tight hug. Mirror immediately warns her to distance herself from him. Coco voices her grievances, demanding to know why he failed to keep his promise, repeating the question over and over again. As Suyok raises his hand toward Coco, Mirror issues another urgent warning for her to move away immediately. Just as she prepares to strike him, Suyok places his hand on Coco's and apologizes, explaining that he had no choice while expressing his relief that she is safe. At that moment, Suyok collapses back onto the ground, and Coco sits on his stomach, positioned like a child. She questions whether Suyok has died, but Mirror assures her that he is still alive. Later, Suyok awakens in a hospital setting to find Mirror seated on a nearby bed. Coco jumps off his bed as he stirs. Mirror asks if he is conscious, and he inquires about his location. Mirror informs him that he is in the medical facility of the task force's hotel. He immediately asks for information regarding Katrina. Mirror reveals that she is being transported for an autopsy, noting that it is a rare opportunity to secure a squad leader. She adds that Cecilia and other task force members are handling the escort, so there is no need for concern. With the tension dissipated, both of them relax. Suddenly, a bag of blood strikes Suyok in the face. It was thrown by Mirror. When he asks for an explanation, she states that she is attempting to cheer him up. She points out that he managed to defeat a squad leader and save a life on his very first mission, commending him for doing well for a novice. He corrects her, stating that it was not his first time. He explains that he has faced vampires before and suffered defeat, losing his precious comrades in the process. He admits that while he ultimately captured the squad leader, his prevailing memory is of losing to vampires yet again. He reflects that if he had made a mistake, he could have caused harm to her and his teammates. Meanwhile, Coco sits on Mirror's bed, drinking blood from a bag. Mirror observes that he has changed. He explains that Ayaka was right. Hearing Ayaka's name brings a happy reaction from Coco. Mirror explains that she witnessed him retaining his consciousness, even while in a berserk state, theorizing that he likely grew stronger after consuming Katrina's blood. She notes that while his berserk form previously demonstrated immense power, it was uncontrollable without his conscious mind. However, she observes that after drinking the squad leader's blood, he exhibited signs of awareness. She argues that if he can control that power and utilize it willfully, he will undoubtedly become stronger. She clarifies that this is merely a hypothesis, but she believes the evidence of his growth is visible in his eyes. She continues, noting that his eyes have definitely transformed, distinguishing them from his current state as a developing vampire. Based on this, she posits that the next stage of evolution would be red irises set against black sclera, reversed eyes. She expresses curiosity about these black eyes. Coco interjects, stating that she has seen those black eyes before. Mirror confirms that the individual was indeed that specific squad leader. Suyok questions Coco regarding her knowledge of those particular eyes. She responds by stating she possesses no knowledge of them. Mirror becomes agitated with Coco, demanding to know why she claimed to have seen them if she actually knows nothing. Coco innocently questions whether she truly made such a statement. He contemplates that vampires at that evolutionary stage must be exceptionally rare, noting that the ability to regenerate a severed limb with such speed is not a common trait. In the midst of this, Coco points toward Mirror, explaining that she believed she was being of assistance. He acknowledges that Mirror's deductive reasoning is sound, proving that she holds the rank of bishop for good reason. Mirror expresses gratitude to him, but is puzzled by his sudden appreciation. He clarifies that thanks to her, his distracting thoughts have vanished, and he thanks her for placing her trust in him and adhering to the plan. She comments that an observer might mistake him for the leader, noting that his decision to act alone certainly complicated matters. She questions whether abandoning the hostages would have been the correct choice. He advises her to relax, adding that he is merely joking. She concedes that regardless of the complications, events unfolded according to the plan. However, she feels annoyed by his attempt to position himself as her equal, resolving that she simply needs to increase her own strength. Suyak mocks her, remarking that they are also aware of that specific method for gaining power, a fact he confirms with Coco. Outside room 1703, Lucia surmises that Mirror divulged everything due to Suyak's strategy. She reflects on the fact that Mirror nearly lost her life and feels indignant that he dared to place Sister Mirror in such peril. Lucia resolves to confront Mirror about the matter, insisting that she requires her blood. As Lucia prepares to open the door, she overhears Suyak from inside instructing Coco to be gentle because it is his first experience. Lucia misinterprets the statement, believing it truly is his first time in a sexual context. Her imagination conjures an image of Suyak and Coco engaging in intimacy, with Coco softly requesting him to be gentle. She muses that even vampires engage in such acts. She feels a wave of sympathy for Mirror, who is recovering in the hospital while Suyak is already involved with Coco. Overwhelmed by these thoughts, Lucia collapses to the floor. Inside the room, the reality is that Suyak is feeding on Coco's blood, prompting her to mention that she feels a strange sensation. Coco inquires how long he intends to continue. Outside, Lucia imagines that during intercourse, Coco is asking the same question regarding duration. Considering everything Mirror endured for Suyak's sake, Lucia feels a deep sense of sorrow. She knocks on the door and shouts that Suyak is terrible, declaring her intention to reveal everything to Sister Mirror. Weeping, Lucia flees the scene. Inside, Suyak and Coco are left confused, wondering what Lucia meant by her outburst. 1 month later, at the Task Force Hotel in the Korean branch, Mirror and Suyak are engaged in sword training. Mirror lunges at him with her weapon, warning him that his victory against Katrina was a stroke of luck. She asserts that to face future adversaries, he requires complete mastery over his abilities. She asserts that if he relies solely on luck, he will never improve. Furthermore, if he remains unable to manifest his reverse eye voluntarily, she takes direct action, severing his arm from his body. She explains to him that they have no choice but to force the transformation. Following the amputation, she drives her sword directly through his chest. The blade penetrates deeply, causing him to bleed profusely. Mirror hypothesizes that given the previous appearance of the reverse eye, the probable trigger is significant blood depletion. She notes that he will likely lose consciousness shortly. Meanwhile, Lucia and Coco observe as Mirror cuts off Suyak's arm. He sits on the floor, losing a substantial amount of blood. Mirror advises him that if he wishes to master the reverse eye, he simply needs to endure the ordeal. At that moment, Mirror appears concerned as he collapses to the ground, appearing as though he is on the verge of death. However, after a few seconds, Suyak rises. This time, he has successfully awakened his reverse eyes. His irises turn red, and he roars at Mirror with the ferocity of a lion. Unimpressed, she labels the attempt another failure. Suddenly, his limb regenerates, and he charges toward Mirror with murderous aggression. Reacting swiftly, Lucia erects a protective barrier around him, confining him within the wall. Mirror watches him closely, and once his appearance returns to normal, she informs him that he has regained consciousness. Lucia inquires about the total count of failures for the day. Mirror confirms that this marks the 10th unsuccessful attempt. Lucia expresses concern regarding their dwindling supply of blood packs and questions the safety of continuing in this manner. Suyak insists that he must bring the reverse eye under control prior to their next deployment. Mirror addresses the concerns regarding the upcoming mission, noting that to prevent information leakage, Katrina destroyed all her laboratories in Russia. However, she adds that prior to the destruction, Katrina appears to have transported all the drugs and test subjects to a foreign location. The task force has already initiated tracking procedures, and once the location is secured, their squad will be mobilized. Speaking of test subjects, Lucia asks if Mirror recalls that the nun they rescued was Russian. Suyak feels a wave of sadness as he remembers the innocent girl. It is noted that Bishop Dominic advised that, despite her status as a vampire, she was determined not to be dangerous. Dominic agreed to look after her until her church records could be verified. Upon her departure, the nun requested that her gratitude be conveyed to both of them for saving her life and granting her a new beginning. As she delivered this message, she began to weep. Suyak reflects that while saving a life is a noble achievement, he believes that had he been stronger, he could have saved more lives that day. He thinks of the many other girls in that laboratory, reasoning that Mirror would have remained safe and Katrina would have been unable to abduct her. He warns the group that their next adversary will likely surpass Katrina in strength, necessitating his own improvement. Consequently, Suyak declares himself ready to resume training with Mirror. Mirror expresses satisfaction with his determination, stating that she loves his fighting spirit. He initiates the attack this time, and Mirror counters with her sword. Meanwhile, Coco grows increasingly bored as she watches their prolonged sparring session. Following the training, Suyak and Coco retire to their bedroom and lie on their respective beds. He thanks Coco for her consistent hard work. Coco dismisses the gratitude, insisting it is of no consequence. She then questions why he is asking her to remove her clothes. He explains that doing so allows him to feel her presence more effectively. Consequently, Coco lies completely nude on the bed with Suyak positioned above her, and the two hold each other. He offers an apology to Coco. When she asks for clarification, he explains that he regrets pursuing Katrina alone. He acknowledges that she likely wanted to kill Katrina more than anyone else, yet he sent her to save Mirror instead. Coco processes this and remains calm. She then informs him that she has a favor to ask. As he wonders about the nature of the request, she suddenly shoves him onto the bed with significant force, leaving him confused by her actions. Straddling him, she declares that she wishes to feed as well. Suyak is surprised by this, given that he had previously been the one drinking her blood. Coco explains that his decision to face Katrina alone angered her. However, she admits that had she confronted Katrina herself, she would have been killed instantly because the enemy was far stronger and more dangerous than she is. Consequently, she demands the opportunity to become stronger herself. Reminding him of his earlier statement that she and Mirror are precious to him, she decides to make an exception. She declares that she will designate him as her underling and protect him, speaking with visible excitement. Suyak contemplates whether witnessing his battle with Katrina made her feel powerless. He realizes she must have felt frustrated being unable to act, despite her enemy being within reach. He interprets her declaration of making him an underling as her way of saying she considers him a friend, though he wonders if that is true. Deciding to accede to her wish, he informs her that she may drink his blood because they are already friends, telling her to proceed. Initially surprised, Coco becomes elated, feeling grateful for his permission. She immediately targets his neck and begins to draw blood. As she lies atop him feeding, Suyak reflects that sharing his blood might slow his own growth, but he accepts this sacrifice because of their friendship. Coco holds him tightly while continuing to feed. Outside the room, Lucia overhears the sounds of Coco feeding. She dwells on the conversation where Coco expressed her desire to suck, and Suyak gave her permission to proceed. Overwhelmed by her interpretation of the events, Lucia suffers another nosebleed, wondering wildly about what is transpiring inside. Elsewhere, medical professionals examining what they believe to be Katrina's corpse are shocked to discover that her vital organs are missing. They quickly realize that this is not a cadaver and deduce that the 5th squad leader is still alive somewhere. The doctor immediately instructs his assistant to contact Lady Cecilia. Outside the hospital, a young girl wearing a mask approaches the security personnel. One of the guards questions the child, ordering her to leave the premises as it is not a place for wandering. She retorts by telling the guard to silence himself. Terrified by the sight of her eyes, which glow bright red in the darkness, the guards listen as she demands they inform their boss immediately of Katrina's arrival. Consequently, the guards escort her to their superior. Inside a room, a female vampire inquires about the visitor's identity, noting that Katrina has changed significantly since their last meeting. This vampire is identified as Natalie, the vice captain of the Nanayama Yakuza's 4th squad. Another vampire, Berenice, also a vice captain of the 4th squad, admonishes Katrina, reminding her that she always warned against becoming arrogant by relying solely on vampiric abilities. A third female vampire, Abigail, the muscular leader of the 4th squad, adds that Katrina needs to train her physical body as well. Katrina shouts at them to be quiet. She asserts that if not for Lily, this situation would not have occurred. It is revealed that Katrina has regressed into the form of a child following her defeat by Suyak. As the 5th squad leader, she explains that she nearly died from having all her blood drained, but managed a narrow escape by hiding within her poisonous mist. Abigail asks who is currently at the laboratory in Russia if Katrina is present here. Katrina explains that she personally destroyed the facility with explosives. Berenice confirms that there was an order from Anna to destroy all facilities and eliminate evidence. noting that all data is being transferred to her own lab. Abigail acknowledges this information. Katrina remarks that every time she observes a certain individual, she is impressed by his competence, adding that he is the creator of Bloody Snow. Abigail confirms this fact, stating that she personally selected him as her subordinate and emphasizing that they are all elite members. Suddenly, Natalie leans in so close to Katrina that her saliva drips onto Katrina's head. She expresses fascination with the elites and wonders why Katrina is there in such a shrunken state and whether Ayaka is nearby. Katrina confirms that it is true and demands that Natalie move her head away, complaining about the saliva falling on her. Subsequently, Katrina informs Abigail that her disciple, Ayaka, is dead. Upon hearing this, Abigail becomes furious and demands to know the identity of the killer. Katrina reveals that it is the same person who reduced her to her current state. She warns them that he is targeting squad leaders, and since he has already attacked her, they are likely next. Abigail considers whether they should implement certain measures. Katrina assumes that Abigail would naturally wish to avenge her disciple, though she privately acknowledges her own intent to manipulate the situation. Katrina is fully aware that, unlike herself, Abigail is a living weapon forged in countless battles, and she intends to utilize her to eliminate Suyak. Acting anonymously, Katrina hopes to completely ruin Anna's plans. However, Abigail dismisses the idea, stating that she will not seek revenge simply because her disciple was killed. She reasons that death is an inevitability on the battlefield and asserts that Ayaka died because she was weak. Abigail concludes that maintaining a defensive position is more advantageous than attacking recklessly. Katrina becomes internally furious, questioning why this battle-obsessed maniac prioritizes Anna's orders in this situation. Outwardly, Katrina tells them that the matter is irrelevant. Natalie then asks Katrina if the adversary was truly that powerful. Katrina clarifies that his strength was not the primary issue, rather she was simply caught off guard because he is a newly turned vampire. Abigail expresses curiosity, asking if Katrina had failed to anticipate his red eyes. She demands confirmation that Katrina was not defeated by a bishop. When Katrina retorts that she never made such a claim, Abigail suddenly becomes aggressive, seizing Katrina by the neck. Confused, Katrina wonders why she is acting this way, but an enraged Abigail orders her to be silent and simply answer the questions. She demands to know Suyak's location. Elsewhere, Mirror is astonished to learn that Katrina is alive. Lucia confirms the news to her, citing the autopsy results uploaded by Cecilia. Mirror struggles to believe it, recalling that they all witnessed the event together. Coco is equally shocked by the revelation that Katrina survived. Mirror reflects on the implications, noting that Suyak had previously mentioned his inability to utilize Katrina's ability. She speculates that this failure might be due to Katrina still being alive. Suyak acknowledges the possibility, but he points out that his ability to maintain consciousness while in the reverse eye state indicates he successfully stole the power Ayaka mentioned. However, he notes that specific conditions must be met to acquire an ability. Mirror ponders the difference between his access to Ayaka's ability and his inability to use Katrina's. Coco inquires about the distinction between the two scenarios. Suddenly, Coco appears uncomfortable, which draws the group's attention. Suyak asks if something is wrong. Coco reveals that she has smelled a specific scent before. Suyak presses her to identify the scent and the person she senses. Meanwhile, individuals approach the hotel entrance. One of them asks the other if they happen to know Suyak. It is Abigail who is making the inquiry. The young man, a guard at the hotel, recognizes Abigail as a vampire. He challenges her presence, demanding to know how she dares to approach the location, and draws his gun on her. However, Abigail destroys the man's head with a single punch, instantly killing him. She orders him to be silent and to keep the noise down. The second guard charges toward her wielding a silver knife, declaring as he runs that he intends to crush her to death. He strikes her chest with the blade, feeling satisfied that he has hit her directly in the heart. However, the knife fails to penetrate her skin. She questions his actions, gripping the edge of his knife, and informs him that she has no interest in insignificant opponents. Using her immense grip strength, she shatters the weapon into small fragments. She then demands that he answer her questions, specifically inquiring about Suyak. Inside the hotel, Suyak senses that something is amiss. Suddenly, a guard runs toward him, calling out for Mirror and Lucia. He reports that the Nanayama Yakuza has launched an attack. Mirror immediately orders everyone to move and asks for the strength of the enemy force. He is astonished to learn that there is only a single assailant. Outside the hotel, Abigail speaks to the injured guards, questioning why they attacked when they are so weak. She asserts that she arrived with full knowledge of the situation. Consequently, she asks one final time for Suyak's location. A few seconds later, additional guards arrive to stop her. Unimpressed by their numbers and firearms, she simply asks if they refuse to inform her about him. She decides it does not matter, announcing that she will simply kill everyone until the man she seeks reveals himself. Abigail points to the deceased guards and warns the last survivor that, regardless of who they are all incredibly weak. She remarks that if this is the extent of the so-called Death Squad's capabilities, she could defeat them with her army alone. Standing directly in front of a wounded guard, she addresses him as Soldier. She expresses a hope that he will be born strong in his next life, just before preparing to kill him with her swords. Just as she is about to deliver the fatal blow, an explosion occurs, flinging her away from him. She wonders if the force is holy power and suspects the presence of a bishop. It is Lucia who knocks her back using holy abilities. At that moment, Lucia signals for Mirror to attack. Mirror leaps into the air with her massive sword and strikes with full force against Abigail, who blocks the blow with her dual blades. Abigail smiles at Mirror before shoving her away. Mirror positions herself in front of the wounded guard and asks if he is safe. He replies that he is fine, thanks to her intervention. Mirror then inquires about Abigail's abilities. The guard responds that while he is unsure of the details, a sword is instantly created after she cuts her own arm. Mirror identifies this as a weapon creation ability and acknowledges the information. She instructs the guard to fall back and report to the sanctum, a command he accepts. Abigail expresses delight that the bishop has arrived, remarking that the situation is finally starting to become interesting. Upon Suyak's arrival, Abigail confirms his identity and declares that she has finally located him. The trio, consisting of Lucia, Mirror, and Suyak, stands ready to face her. Abigail appears pleased to see him. She reveals that she heard from Katarina that he is targeting the captains, adding that, on top of that, he already possesses the distinctive eye. This statement alerts Suyak to the fact that Katarina is still alive. Although Abigail remains curious about why he possesses that eye, now that she is aware of it, she feels an irresistible urge to fight him. Suddenly, Coco appears and begins sniffing Abigail. Coco calls out Abigail's name, causing Abigail to express surprise at seeing her there. Abigail questions why Coco is present and wonders if the people she is with are not the enemies of her friend. Mirror, observing this interaction, asks Coco why she is sniffing the woman if she intends to recognize her by sight. She wonders if the two are acquainted. After glancing at Abigail's swords, Coco quickly grabs Suyak's hand and asks if Abigail has come to capture him as well. Coco asserts that Suyak is her subordinate. Intrigued, Abigail asks why Coco refers to him in that manner. Coco expresses gratitude to Abigail for what she did for Ayaka in the past, but firmly states that she will not accept anything else from her, nor will she allow anything to be taken away. Abigail retorts that the friend Coco went to such trouble to protect has now joined forces with her enemies. She reflects that Ayaka's life is undeniably tragic. Mirror challenges Abigail, addressing her as a vampire and asserting that regardless of her rank as a captain, their side possesses 2 bishops and 2 captain-level vampires. She claims Abigail has no idea what she is dealing with given the acts she has committed. Mirror warns her not to expect a peaceful death. Abigail smiles at the threat, countering that being a captain does not imply she is identical to every other captain. She assures Mirror that if she thinks this encounter will be a joke, she is mistaken. She declares that on a blood-soaked battlefield, she is invincible. Following this statement, she places both hands on the ground, causing large spikes to fill the area. Mirror and her team leap away to evade the spikes, observing that they only emerge where there is blood on the ground. Mirror is startled to see thorns rising from the earth, realizing that the enemy's power extends beyond simple weapon creation. Lucia orders her team to fall back, noting that the thorns are erupting from the blood puddles, and reasoning that they will be safe if they move to an area without blood. Suddenly, Abigail materializes directly behind Lucia at close range, preparing to attack with her axe. She succeeds in striking Lucia with the weapon, injuring her. Mirror is shocked to witness her friend being wounded. Abigail remarks to Lucia that while her observation skills were commendable, she should have managed the distance better. She then asks who is next. Mirror becomes furious, declaring that she dares not harm Lucia. Suddenly, Coco leaps forward and restrains Abigail from behind, providing Suyak with the perfect opportunity to attack. He strikes Abigail swiftly with his knife, landing a blow that momentarily incapacitates her. Mirror curses Abigail, calling her a bastard, and urgently warns Suyak of the danger, but he instructs Mirror to remain calm. He warns her that losing her composure will only lead her to the same fate as the enemy. He declares that he will buy them some time and directs Mirror to prioritize Lucia's care. Lucia remains on the floor, bleeding profusely and drifting toward unconsciousness. Mirror urges her to stay awake. Observing the severity of the blood loss, Mirror acknowledges the dire situation, noting that the wound is too deep and the hemorrhage too severe. She places her hand over Lucia's injury, utilizing her holy powers in an attempt to heal it. She states that she will do her best to stanch the bleeding with her divine energy, but admits that this will only delay the inevitable death. In this situation, Suyok must stall until reinforcements arrive. He reflects that his earlier strike on Abigail was a test, which is now confirmed that he has not yet awakened. It appears the manifestation occurred only once, and Abigail expresses disappointment, noting that she had hoped to finally face a powerful adversary. Suyok questions the meaning behind her reference to an awakening. Abigail smiles and announces that, starting now, she intends to kill every human within the hotel. Suyok is startled by this declaration. He realizes that displaying the specific eye indicates he has utilized his awakened ability. Abigail informs him that if he wishes to stop her, he must find a way to use that power. She begins walking toward Mirror, stating that she should commence her killing spree with the sword-wielding bishop. Suyok assesses her capabilities, recognizing her as a formidable opponent due to her impenetrable skin. He notes that even silver knives are ineffective against her, and his own blade fractured upon impact. He concludes that, as expected, he has no alternative but to utilize that specific power. However, he hesitates, realizing that if he makes a mistake, he could inadvertently harm Lucia. Consequently, until backup arrives, their only option is to buy time. He instructs Coco to attack Abigail. Both he and Coco charge at the antagonist simultaneously. Abigail warns Coco that if she does not intend to take the fight seriously, she should step aside, as she has no interest in half-hearted attempts. Demonstrating her seriousness, Coco leaps at her. After landing a strike on Abigail, Coco quickly jumps away. Both Abigail and Suyok are fascinated by Coco's speed. Suyok speculates that she has become significantly faster due to absorbing blood, compared to when he first encountered her. It appears as though she is everywhere at once, surrounding Abigail from all directions. Abigail begins to gather her dark powers. Suyok decides that he and Coco must take her down together, so he joins the assault. Abigail attacks Suyok with her weapon, but he blocks the strike with his arm. He wrests the weapon from her grasp and delivers a punch powerful enough to stun her. Abigail is surprised to discover that he is skilled in Krav Maga. She attempts to block his next punch using both her hands and her weapon, but instead of a punch, Suyok executes a powerful kick to her face, sending her flying a significant distance away. She barely manages to stabilize herself. Suyok remains confident in his ability to handle the situation. He reasons that her primary capability is weapon formation, and if the combat style she utilized moments ago is based on human techniques, he will not be defeated by a human opponent. He holds a firm conviction that victory is assured. At that moment, Abigail strikes at him with her conjured weapon, but he manages to dodge the attack. However, Suyok notices a distinct change in her movements compared to their earlier exchange. She generates a defensive perimeter around herself through the rapid rotation of her weapon. Recognizing the threat, he decides he must establish some distance between them. Suddenly, he is struck in the head by Abigail's spear. Suyok collapses to a sitting position on the ground, bleeding from one eye. He swiftly realizes that she had not been fighting with serious intent until this point. Abigail issues another warning, stating that this outcome is his choice. She asserts that battle belongs to the strong and declares that she has no interest in an individual who cannot control their own power. From the flank, Coco launches an attack against Abigail. Surprisingly, Abigail intercepts Coco with her hand and effortlessly tosses her aside. Coco screams at her, vowing never to forgive her for bullying Suyok. Coco attempts another assault from the rear, but Abigail remarks that while she has certainly become faster, her attack patterns remain predictable. To demonstrate this, Abigail positions her spear directly in Coco's path. As Coco leaps toward her, she is gripped by the fear that she is about to be impaled. However, Suyok suddenly intervenes, shoving Coco away from the spear and saving her life just as she believes she is about to die. In the process of saving Coco, Suyok is stabbed in the chest. Abigail questions whether he is still unable to use his power even after enduring such trauma. Her spear penetrates completely through his chest, forcing him to his knees. Dismissing him as boring, Abigail watches as Suyok falls unconscious to the ground. Coco sits beside him, weeping and pleading for him to wake up. Abigail begins to walk away, though she repeatedly calls out for Suyok to rise. Abruptly, Suyok stands up, which fills Coco with joy. He instructs Coco to attend to Lucia and Mirror, and warns her to stay far away from him, explaining that he has entered his monstrous state. As Abigail continues to walk away, she senses someone following her and assumes it is Coco. She turns back to tell Coco that she has no interest in her, adding that she is sparing her only for the sake of old times, and orders her to leave. However, upon still feeling a presence behind her, she concludes that the girl is as foolish as ever. When she turns around again, she is startled to see an immensely powerful Suyok rising from the ground. Abigail questions the nature of this power, noting that it is significantly stronger than before. She wonders what he has done. Ultimately, Abigail is delighted that he has finally manifested his awakened ability, smiling at the red-eyed Suyok. Mirror's hand is on her stomach, trying to heal her friend, but her healing is too weak. Coco runs over, saying they're screwed because Suyok awakened his power. She knows things are dangerous now. But the brawl is insane, a spear to the chest and a punch to the mouth. Abigail is stunned. This kid's crazy. He's letting himself get hit just to hit back. He's like a dog, lunging non-stop. She pulls out that Spartan spear like Leonidas, and it goes right for his mouth. Fine then, take it. He tanks it and keeps going. She dodges gracefully, grabs the spear she had planted from far away, spins and yanks it out. I don't know how, but he still comes in with a punch. That one was brutal and had real swagger. She gets smashed into the wall, and she feels his pressure while he's punching the spear for some reason. It's like a JoJo combo sequence, non-stop yelling, and she's trying to figure out how she's supposed to get out of this. His speed and strength are absurd. The regeneration makes no sense. This really is a fully awakened vampire. The pillars are almost collapsing, while she says something is off. His attacks are sloppy, and he's not even trying to defend. He's basically a beast, and he's throwing aerial hits too. Now she comes in with that little sword. She cuts him up like a butcher. What a massacre. The protagonist is getting whipped around, but he grabs her big sword hard. He tries to hold her, but she escapes. A big hand grabs her neck, then a knee connects with her mouth, full UFC style. She charges forward, then literally squeezes his heart, calling him a pathetic bastard. Her hand comes out his other side, and she says if he can't control that power, acting like a beast, he doesn't deserve it. Back with the girls, Mirror flinches, hearing Abigail say she had big expectations for those eyes. Abigail walks up, saying it's a shame she's so disappointed. Coco steps in to protect, and Mirror is shocked. No way Suyuk lost that easily. Abigail tells the bishop to pick up her weapon already, because dying like this is ridiculous. Her friend's going to die anyway, so she should at least have some honor. Mirror doesn't react, so Abigail moves in Spartan style again, but then she feels something coming from the left, and a blue glow hits her. She wonders what kind of flames those are, and someone tells Mirror not to interrupt. Is it Cecilia going off? Mirror watches. Yeah, it's her. I never forget a friend. She says she came to incinerate the vampires. Now it's a 1 versus 1 with abs. Abigail is happy, saying another bishop finally showed up, and she looks strong. Mirror yells for Cecilia to watch out for the blood weapon, but Cecilia smacks the spear aside and says she doesn't care. She's going to die soon anyway. Abigail's blood looks like it's melting. She throws Cecilia back and charges, but gets blasted with blue fire to the face. She splits the flames. She then meets Cecilia in the air. Cecilia pulls back but steps into a blood pool, and Abigail instantly starts the spike sequence. Cecilia responds by lighting her foot on fire, then jumps like a King of Fighters character. She throws a fiery punch at the mouth, but Abigail counters with that helicopter move. The fight seems balanced, but Abigail's weapon is failing. Then she says, this is it, that in this world, even with good ingredients, there's a huge difference from the real thing. Mirror's confused, wondering why she's talking about ingredients. Cecilia tells her the sun's about to rise, so Abigail should attack and shut up. Abigail smiles like she's letting go and says she's going to pierce her now. They rush again, and then it looks like a flashbang drops in the hall's center. They don't get it, but that's not what it is. It's Catherine's poison spreading. Abigail looks back, saying she already told that idiot not to interfere. Then Berenice the accountant appears, saying it's an order above her. Abigail needs to stop these solo actions now and return. Abigail gets furious, calling someone a bastard, but she sees the blade from her eye's corner and decides to retreat. Cecilia says she won't let her leave, but the poison is between them. Even so, she extends a flaming fist, but Mirror yells that saving Lucia is the priority. Cecilia doesn't want to, but Mirror insists they need someone who can use a lot of holy power. Cecilia keeps staring, watching them run, and she's pissed. It feels like that Anna Nanayama thing again, where she doesn't want the protagonist dead yet. She's just trying to build him up. What's she planning with him? Back at the villain's base, Abigail was angry, saying it was getting fun, so why were they moving already? Lily up front told her to be careful since patience has limits. Abigail was causing Anna way more trouble than she should. Abigail said she did not care, it was not her problem. Lily looked confused, and Abigail explained it was not her mission, so why should she care? The only thing that happened was they ruined her fun, so they had to deal with it. It looked like they were about to fight because Lily said Abigail did not even understand her position in the organization. Abigail was fight crazy and went in swinging at her own ally like she never got tired. Lily tried to hold back, saying fights between squad leaders were forbidden. Abigail kept attacking, saying she was done with that story. She already knew Lily was actually weaker because that eye was nothing. She said that, and Lily blocked her spear, then landed a hit to the mouth. Now Abigail smiled, saying that was what she liked. Here came the masochist looking for fun. Abigail thought Berenice would help, but Berenice was just standing there calmly. Except no, she saw a clone and got punched in the mouth by Berenice herself. She got blasted into the wall. Wait, was that Lily disguised as Berenice? She did not get it. Abigail was furious, telling her to stop these pathetic tricks and fight fair. Then she tried to power up and spit blood. She dropped to her knees, coughing blood. And it was not Lily because Lily looked confused, asking what happened to her. Then someone asked what all the noise was. Nanayama was here, and everyone dropped to their knees, greeting her. She just stares at them, while Lily tries to explain she was stopping Abigail because she was acting reckless. Abigail tells Anna this is different from their deal. She said Abigail could do whatever she wanted, and then she gets smacked in the mouth. Anna tells her to shut up because she didn't speak to her. Abigail almost ruined the plan, and as far as Anna remembers, she could do whatever she wanted as long as it stayed in the shadows. Now the poor girl is apologizing over there, and all of a sudden I think Anna turned off whatever was causing pain, because now she's calm and saying that from now on she'll keep it in mind. She tells Lily to come over, and Lily stands up and still smacks that idiot on the head, then walks away with a devilish little smile. Abigail is furious, and she's basically ready to join the protagonist's little group too, just to kill that tall one. Scene change. We're at the hospital where Lucia is probably hospitalized, and it was all for nothing. She should have put up one of her little barriers. Now she's intubated like a... Outside, Cecilia tells Mirror it's not too late, and they should kill Suyok. Mirror says they already talked about that, so drop it. Out of nowhere, she punches the wall, another one losing control. Looks like the abdomen costs women a bit of their mind control. She's yelling, saying the base got exposed, members died all because of that guy. Then Mirror pulls up her shirt, and wow, pull it up a little more. Then she tells Cecilia to watch what she says. She knows that decision sacrifices countless people, but without Suyok, humanity will suffer a lot longer under Anna. She saw the revelation, and Suyok is the one who's going to kill that woman. They stare each other down in this weird kind of fight, while Cecilia says she's done and she won't talk about it again. That whole thing about him being chosen or some threat coming was all fake. Then suddenly both of them get hit by this light freakout, and they start seeing a church with everyone dead out front. Lily just stares, and I have no idea what went down, but they are both grabbing their heads. So yeah, they both got another vision, saw the vampire, and it looked kind of familiar. Then a guy runs in from the back, telling the bishops they have an emergency. The sanctuary was under attack. Then the scene cuts to the sanctuary, and everyone's dead. That real-time vision did not help much. The guy says that is impossible, and then he gets torn apart too. Lily is slaughtering everyone, and she tells Anna it is handled. She is destroying the cross, saying the task force is going to be wiped out. Next chapter, Cecilia arrives, probably because she was far away, so the vision is basically a webcam. She sees everyone dead and hears someone's voice, and it is Hildy coming up from the side. Cecilia asks what happened, and Hildy says they are investigating, but Dominic is waiting for her. Dominic is standing in the church when Cecilia walks in, calling for the master, trying to understand what happened. He says this is the second recent attack after the one in Russia. This time the difference is there are no enemy bodies here. They apparently developed a stronger drug. Then a guy nearby is coughing. He calls for the bishop and Cecilia runs to help, but the guy says it was not them. Then we see the guy opening the door, saying the enemies are attacking, and he is going to help, and he asks how many there are. Then the guy changes into Lily, who says it's just her. He then gets cut down. The other two rush over to see what's happening, and they also get sliced up. She acts all proud, but then a bullet hits her and she nearly dies, or she just looks really scared. The guy asks what she's doing there because she says the gun is old and she only has a small knife. But as he's about to tell her to drop the knife, he gets shot in the head. She even says he was too careless. Seeing the first bodies, she says this place is incredible. No matter how many she takes down, more keep coming. The guy on the ground just watches everyone getting chopped up and apologizes for failing to protect the sanctuary. Back to Cecilia, who looks shaken. A vampire got into the sanctuary, which should be impossible. Sacred relics protect this place. Then one of the guys calls Dominic, saying they have a terrible emergency. The sacred relic is gone. The altar where it was is empty. Cecilia immediately knows that's Dominic's weapon, and now they're screwed. He says that's not even the most important part. They nullify its protection, meaning all sanctuaries, even Seoul, aren't safe anymore. They probably have someone infiltrated within the task force. Only strike force members can access this place, so whoever took the relic is from their own group. Cecilia already wants to start fighting, but he tells her to calm down, and they're discussing possibilities. You said all that with so much certainty, huh? He tells her to stop getting shaken by every piece of information. Someone like her should judge things rationally, or she'll send everyone to their deaths in a stupid way. She says fine. She'll go to Seoul to protect the relic and the base there. He thanks her and says that's much better. Then she asks where Mirror is, because she says Mirror can't come. She's taking care of the Teletubby. What? She became a doctor out of nowhere? Leave her alone. You can't just wait in a hospital for someone to wake up from a coma in this world of fighting. Dominic asks her to deliver a message. Mirror's team's next mission is to attack Catherine's base. They finally found the exact spot in Mexico. It looks like drugs are trafficked there, and Anna already controls the cartel. And of course, Squad 4 leader Abigail is personally running everything. At the base, Catherine thinks Abigail is taking too long. Suhioki should be dead at least, but then Abigail shows up, sits down, and says she's pissed. Catherine, not really understanding, asks about Suhioki. Abigail tells her to forget that guy. She now knows Lily also caused Catherine to shrink. Catherine says, yeah, if not for that bastard, this wouldn't have happened. Catherine asks why she's bringing it up, and Abigail says she ran into Lily, and now she's realizing all of this connects to Anna. She's also realizing that the moment any squad leader becomes even a little useless, they get eliminated. And going from bottom to top, she's next. But for now, she's calm. She's following orders properly and won't just sit waiting for it to happen. She smiles at Catherine, who still doesn't get it, and says from now on, she's going to work. The scene goes to a base where they're talking to that vampire the protagonist saved. It's Dominic saying she doesn't seem dangerous, and now she'll be under his supervision. Or is she the traitor? Even though she's a vampire, can she be in the sanctuary? Her name is Lisa, and she's smiling, telling the bishop he can count on her. He says she was called because she's the only survivor who escaped the vampires in Russia. They destroyed all nearby churches, monasteries, and even her convent was targeted. Incidents like that are happening in Korea, and they brought her here hoping she can help somehow. She agrees but looks confused. Then he shows her images from the Russia team. When she sees them, she panics, falls to the floor, apologizing, begging for forgiveness. He says it's just a photo. He doesn't get why she's reacting like this. She points at Lily and says that woman massacred all the believers and kidnapped her. Dominic asks if she really remembers the face, and she says yes, but it doesn't matter since her appearance changes constantly. Dominic realizes this matches what that guy said about her transforming right in front of him. The person Cecilia saw attacking the sanctuary, it all connects to her, and that woman is directly connected to Anna, so what's she planning? We find out now because Lily reports she successfully removed the relics from the sanctuary. Meanwhile, what's this? Those huge boobs, and you're taking a red bath. Anna says good job and asks how the next one is going, because Lily says just like Anna asked, it's already been planted. It'll be easy to destroy Seoul the same way they destroyed Busan. The only problem is the relics there are much more powerful, and they need more time to prepare. Anna says it's fine. He still wasn't ready. She's been planning this for so long that even if it takes a bit longer, it's fine. She gets out of the bath and says soon she'll fulfill her wish and once and for all destroy the Vatican. She puts a hand on Lily's shoulder and says for this important plan, Lily is crucial. Lily smiles and tells Anna not to worry. She can count on her. Scene change back to the hospital, and finally the poor girl isn't a Teletubby anymore. Mirror is there on watch, just remembering all those moments when Lucia would cling to her and crush her in that unfair one-on-one. She used to get hurt every day. Each time they fought, she can't believe Lucia's like this now. She thinks, sorry Lucia, just like Cecilia said, if I hadn't brought Suyok, maybe this wouldn't have happened. She's really two-faced. At least her hate aims at Abigail. Then her phone rings and she gets told about the Mexico mission. That's where Abigail is, and she'll get details in person, so she has to go to the hotel. She tells the Teletubby to rest a little more because she's getting revenge now, and she'll turn the life of the person who did this into hell. She's feeling herself. No teammate of mine will go through this. On this mission, I'm ending that woman. She has the face of someone about to get beat up. She gets another call and she thinks it's Suyok saying he found Anna's address and all the bishops should go where he's about to send. Could that be a shape-shifted one? He's looking furious. We see a bit earlier, Coco was there having a drink, talking to a boy. Poor old people in the hospital almost dying. forced to see that. What's going on with you, girl? He asks where Abigail is. Coco says Berenice took her. The protagonist notices that once again, after activating the black eye, he not only couldn't win, he barely remembers anything. He still wasn't enough to surpass that woman. At this pace, he can't even dream about revenge. Then someone asks, "Did you hear the news? Looks like last night the Busan sanctuary completely collapsed." Another guy says, "Yeah, I heard the relics were taken." The protagonist jumps up like, "What do you mean?" The guy's about to explain, but the protagonist's already calling Coco, saying they have to find Abigail, and he runs out. The kid woke up and went straight to work. He knows it's been a day, but since Coco can track blood, maybe they can find her. He knows those women often trick people, but they're likely together for their next scheme, and tracking the blood will reveal both Abigail's and Anna's locations. Then we're right there, facing the building, and Coco says Abigail went to this spot, but the scent's fading, so she's not certain. Suddenly, Coco gets a shock. The protagonist asks what's wrong, and Coco says she smelled Anna. That's when he sent the message explaining how he found the location. He confirmed it's their Korea base, and he told them to call everyone. We see some guys walking around saying Nanayoma's group is really impressive. They control all the international drug markets. It looks like they can deliver you anything good. But the boss got a weird order this time, something about warning anyone with a cross eye. The guys are confused, like, where are we supposed to see someone with a cross pupil? Right then, the wall explodes, and with the blue flames, you already know who's coming. Someone asks where Anna is. Cecilia and the whole crew showed up to attack. Finally, they're going to shock these vampires, but I still want to know how strong Anna really is. She's probably insanely strong, obviously. Guys are getting rockets to the chest, while Cecilia says she hates working with a vampire. But let's go, because there's stuff to settle. According to Coco, there are at least 2 in there. Cecilia starts laying it out, they will move in pairs, and when someone finds Anna, they all regroup. They have members waiting outside, so there's no way they escape without being seen. Anna's base people come rushing in, but Hild and Dominic are the heavy hitters. Hild has that demon angel thing showing up, throwing punches. Dominic is supposedly everyone's master. Mira charges. With her sword glowing, she begins cutting everyone down. Suyak moves ahead, and she warns him to be careful. He tells her the same, but he's clearly hunting at top speed, declaring that today, unlike that previous day, he'll finish her. Some unlucky guys on the stairs think they'll stop him, but he snatches the gun from one guy's hand, kills him, and keeps going. He targets the next one, who tries to fight back, but he slides his hand under the arm, then slams him to the ground. He even tells Coco to enjoy her meal, and she goes to devour the poor guy. Everyone on the stairs is dead, and in the hallways too, and finally, they're at the door where the smell was strongest. He asks about Dominic and Hild, and Mira says they're handling others in the lobby. Cecilia says they can't wait. If they're not here, they need to link up fast, so they must go in hard. The protagonist steps forward, recalling the last time he entered a situation like this with 2 allies, and both got shot in the head and died. He thinks he'll find Anna holding a head. He opens the door, but this time a huge hand flies into his face. So is that Anna moving at full speed, or a big red eye staring at him? Next chapter, we see some idiots chasing Hild, who everyone fears. They open that circle and hands rain down on them. Dominic offers the blonde guy a chance to surrender. Looks like he's the boss of one of Nanayama's organizations. He'd be spared if he just revealed Anna's location. The guy laughed, saying he wouldn't be spared today. The church people would surrender instead. Anna gave the international faction a gift, boosting them to the top. The Korean underworld now has a new method for handling this. Congrats, Dominic. You let the guy reach into his pocket, grab the injection, stick it in his neck, and start transforming. He said this gives an ordinary person squad leader level strength. The bishop's end would be right there. Back to the scene where the huge hand flew at Soo-hyuk, but he grabbed it and stared, then slammed it into the wall. Nobody understood what just happened. It looked like Anna in handcuffs, but it wasn't her. What's going on? The protagonist told her to be careful and go in. A white-haired one came in furious to swipe, but Cecilia crushed them. Cecilia immediately lifted them, asking where Anna was, but the kid wasn't answering. She realized it was a low-level vampire, unable to even talk properly. Damn, that ending is pure cruelty. No mercy at all, they straight up grilled her. She said it's fine. She'd find that damn Anna herself and burn every vampire. She left the leftovers behind. Now Cecilia asked the protagonist where Anna was. Didn't he say she was here? He said yes. Coco warned them, but the scent was already a few days old. Looks like she found out they were coming and left. And man, Cecilia is annoying too. She's there like, I told you. Mirror, they cause more trouble than they help. She's there saying she wants to kill the protagonist. Damn, you really deserve a punch in the mouth. The guy just killed a vampire, and you still think it was fake info. Mirror wants to defend the protagonist, but even he looks awkward because he told them to bring all the bishops. and it didn't really lead to much. Then Dominic showed up carrying the guy, saying it's not completely true. This blonde kid, the boss, promised to tell everything if he got out alive. The drug they've been delivering is that bloody snow, and it gives normal people temporary vampire abilities. Mirror said she found something similar on the Russia mission, and that explained why those normal guys had fast healing wounds. The protagonist said maybe it's also connected to what was injected in those capsule mines, and Dominic, remembering that earlier list, said they're probably forcing even more people into those experiments, so they really needed to rush this mission and end it fast. The scene switches to Berenice's lab, where she's clearly still running experiments. Meanwhile, Catherine's in the other room, exhausted and furious, because now she has to obey whatever that damn Abigail says. She starts kicking Natalie, saying she's pissed. She has to go through this because of her master. Right then, Abigail shows up and tells her to say it again, and she grabs her by the head, saying the little girl has to listen to mommy. She hugs her and tells her to stop being angry. Both of them are Anna's targets, so they can only rely on each other. On top of that, she has a new plan, and she wants to Heioke. Catherine gets startled and blushes, saying, wow, so Abigail finally wants to become a real woman. Abigail tells her to stop thinking they're the same. She only remembered that Anna said something about someone almost ruining the plan, and considering everything, it's because she almost killed Soo Hyok. So whatever Anna's plan is, it involves that guy, and if they have him, they can negotiate with her. Catherine looks interested because securing Soo Hyok is exactly what she wanted, yeah, but let's say she wants him for more normal human reasons. But she says it won't be that easy because Anna still has Lily. Abigail explains they have the advantage because Soo Hyok is hunting the leaders, and she's next. Catherine is still unsure, saying they'll have to deal with a bunch of bishops, but Abigail says they're weak as hell. She can make them run easily. If those Vatican bastards come there, they'll all die. And she has her extremely useful maids, right? One drooling lie, an idiot, and the other's only good for research. Actually, no, because she's got a whole army of manufactured female vampires. Back at the protagonist's base, they're talking about not rushing. First, they need to analyze the blood snow for a few days. Mirror doesn't get it, so he explains they'll talk to that guy and learn how it's being sold in the underworld. At the same time, it's an experiment and a biological weapon, and they have a lot to learn. Anyway, Dominic puts a hand on the protagonist's shoulder and says he did really well. Anna wasn't there, but they managed to get the drug and prevent a bunch of vampires from being released into the world. He says it's nothing, and right then, Cecilia agrees, saying he was useless. Anna was already gone, and he had the nerve to mobilize all the bishops based on unconfirmed info from a former vampire leader. The task force team really went to trash. Mirror tries to say that even if Coco is a leader, her sense of smell is incredible. But then Coco suddenly asks if Dominic is a vampire. Strangely, Mirror looks confused too, and Cecilia hits the protagonist and says she'll deal with it later. But this time, the smile isn't going to slide so easily. Dominic doesn't really understand and apologizes. He says everyone should rest, and he'll analyze the blood snow. And with that, we cut to when the preliminary analysis is done. Now they know Anna Underworld has already taken over Japan and a big part of the world thanks to this weird drug. International factions are all interested because of the abilities it gives. The problem is there are side effects when it wears off. The protagonist remembers that gang that surrounded him at the bar where everyone looked like they were on something. And Dominic makes a bold guess. He says maybe this drug is vampire blood. Wow, who would have thought? They found transmuted cells that can destroy human tissue and rebuild it into vampire-like tissue. Mirror understands that must be the solution to the fact that not every human can truly become a real vampire. Dominic explains it must be the result of research into vampire transformation. Even if it gives part of the powers, it doesn't match real strength. But if they possess this tech, they could eventually mass-produce leaders. So Natalie appears to be a manufactured vampire from Berenice Tech. Mirror and Cecilia declare that's impossible. Creating a vampire is tough, especially a leader-level one. Dominic says it's not entirely impossible, maybe with the right people. Administering it slowly lets you control the drug's aggression while boosting powers. And he's sure about one thing. Whoever leads this research is clearly extremely competent, Berenice. That's the info he has, and the mission is obviously to destroy those labs fast, save the experiment subjects, and stop mass production. Back in the lab, Catherine celebrates, saying she finally finished this. Now the jerk who treats her like a kid will suffer. Then she tells Natalie to take her to the master, and she climbs on her back, arms crossed, saying she's done with Abigail giving orders. But then she gets startled. Oh my god, it's just Abigail sending a message, asking if she finished the mission. Catherine, shocked, asks what's happening, and Abigail says she's been fighting a lot and it's time to loosen up her muscles. Catherine is furious, saying that bitch gets queen treatment while she works like a slave. But anyway, here's what she needed. Abigail praises her and says now she can finally relax. Catherine doesn't think it'll work. She says this will only make her angrier. Abigail turns and says she doesn't need to worry. She already has the plan. Just trust her and follow the path. No more muscle relaxing for today. Catherine keeps trash talking, telling that bitch to do something, until she gets slapped twice in the face. Damn, she got crushed. That's the kind of thing that always happens to our protagonist, but that bastard still hasn't even left the corner. While Abigail takes the experiment and says now nobody will ignore her. And now we're at an inn in Mexico. Men in Black arrived, and Mira told him to keep everything secret. Coco wasn't brought this time, so she wouldn't cause trouble. Officially, secret agents are there to take down cartels, but Abigail's base is the real target. Mira told her to be careful. They probably know they're coming, and there'll be a trap. Among all the cartels, one called Border Region is the most dangerous. The guys there are above the law. They display bodies in the slums. Atrocities happen without hesitation. Disappearances and death are daily occurrences. It won't be an easy job. That's also what outsiders think about Brazil. Mira said to relax, girl. This time they have her support. Then Cecilia showed up, her abs covered for the first time. Dominic suggested she come along, but she complained she didn't want to. But he said her abilities seemed like a good match against Abigail. Her power would be a huge help, so she should go. Of course she's mad, but Mira said with the three of them, they can handle it. Then someone called them. A soldier introduced himself as Diego and said he'd support the operation. He'd escort everyone, so they should follow him. In the room, Diego said the region is a war zone because of the cartels, and he'd be honest. He couldn't trust any of the three of them. He got orders to share information with them, but unfortunately for him, everyone's identity is uncertain. Mira asked if he was going to challenge orders from above. He said he was being cautious. Because of people faking identities, some police and military have already been killed. The protagonist figured he wouldn't trust them, but to do the mission, he needs support. So he asked how they could prove they were allied agents, and Diego just started walking and told them to follow. Looks like they're talking in English and Spanish or whatever, because Mira isn't understanding anything. Diego explained the city mayor was captured by the cartel, and they declared war. Most allies were executed, and the guy is close to getting killed too. The mission is obvious. Rescue him. He was about to offer weapons, but the protagonist cut him off and said it was enough. Just take us to the place and we'll handle it now. Somewhere else? Someone said most of them were executed. Damn, only the mayor is left. Hold on. So the crowd's choices are all wrong. Hold on, the mayor's over there. I think that's his wife. I'm not sure. Just then, they hear chaos outside. The door slowly opens. I thought it was an ally, but it's a thug. No, I was right. The guy's yelling for the bastards to leave the mayor's wife alone, but then his body drops. Someone calls out for Olivia. Chad walks in, saying he's here to handle things. Follow Daddy. The two idiots run through the hallway, shocked he handled it alone with a knife. Then he says his team is impressive, right? Who are they? He says he has no team, it's just him. Suddenly, two guys pop up in the back like a CS match. The guy planting is shocked, but relax. The flying knife hits the first one in the head. The other pulls his gun to shoot, but the kid's basically cheating. Done. Counter-terrorists win the round. Take your AK. Go do something with your life. I'll go first while you protect the mayor's wife. She says she's going with him. He shouldn't go alone. He says, no, big head, stay back. The boss will handle it. He pulls a grenade and throws it right at the mayor's feet in that exact pixel spot. Olivia, tanned, looks back and sees the protagonist defending the site solo. The kid has the sensitivity. Outside, some guys are laughing, asking what one guy's going to do alone. Diego was stupid. This operation's a waste. Then someone calls for Diego, and everyone freaks out. The protagonist shows up untouched, not a single drop of blood on his shirt, and says it's done. Now, give me the info on all the cartels in the region. If you disobey, I'll consider it a soldier's insubordination. Next chapter, Olivia Tan says our guy is incredible. Now that she's dressed, she looks all wrinkled. When she was on the floor, she looked like a model. This artist, man. Everyone thanks the protagonist. The big jaw guy says he'll take them to a place to stay. They won't have to pay anything, blah, blah, blah. But the protagonist isn't interested. He's only thinking about the cartel info. Diego handed it over, plus an old walkie-talkie to contact him. Diego also apologizes. He didn't know the protagonist was basically prime cold Zara. The protagonist says he only wants a small favor. It's the mayor's wife's servant thanking them, showing the room, while the protagonist already got a message on his new flip phone. He hands some papers to Mirror and tells them to go into the room. He has something to talk about with Diego. Mirror says lately he's been doing too much alone. Cecilia says perfect, let him handle the small stuff. They need to worry about the real problem, which is the fight against Abigail because that woman is strong. Even with both of them, it won't be that easy. Then Mirror says, what if, instead of 2, Suyok has 3? Cecilia doesn't get it. Mirror wants to get him 1 more. She says every time he drinks some blood, he gets stronger. So what if he drinks the blood of another bishop with powers? He could get really powerful. Cecilia cuts her off and asks if Mirror is saying she should offer her neck to a vampire. Mirror tries to explain, but gets interrupted again with her yelling, saying she would rather die than let that happen. Mirror tries to argue they are not in a position to pick and choose what is worth it. But AB's girl just walked off saying that would never happen. Mirror thought that girl never listened. The scene changed to a guy asking why the kid took so long. It was a cartel guy meeting with Big Jaw. The thug asked why the mission failed, saying they were told everything would work out if the mayor died. Then the protagonist showed up with Diego, not even letting them speak, and said it was exactly what he'd suspected. Big Jaw didn't get how they suspected him so fast, but the protagonist said it was obvious, because he and the mayor's wife were kept alive while everyone else died, which made no sense. Plus, he purposely gave him a gun with no bullets, just to hear him pull the trigger at a specific moment, even without bullets. His plan was to kill both the main guy and her right there. In that moment, he was shocked, wondering how this psycho came up with such a plan out of nowhere. Before the mission, the main guy was so confident he even had Diego put a GPS on his car. Now this was his last chance to survive, so he just had to tell everything about the cartel. He said it was fine. A few weeks ago, the cartel contacted him. The blonde guy threatened him, saying his family would disappear if he talked, but he almost got shot. The main guy told him to keep going, and he explained that something felt off about the cartel, so he started studying them. Unlike the others, these guys weren't dealing. Damn, he was passing information, but he got taken out. That surprised me because sometimes this story drags a little. He dropped hard. On the walkie-talkie, there were some little noises. The main guy heard someone saying he made it pretty far. They got info that their ally this time was really useful. It was a shame they had to end it like this since things got complicated. Diego didn't get it, like, did he know who he was and what was going on? And the main guy realized it was a warning that the bishops were being hunted. Even the apartment they were hiding in was a trap, and if they were going after a bishop, that meant they weren't sending weak people. Yeah, they were sending a drooler too. Basically, a blue-haired Coco. Right at the door, ready to push into the bomb site. Someone announces the objective. It's to eliminate that well-fed little vampire inside. They raise their weapons, shots begin, glass shatters, smoke rises, then he calls a ceasefire and takes a look. The first guy in the bomb site, hidden by smoke, thinks he's about to plant the little bomb, but then the CT emerges from the fog, and that CT is stacked. She steps right on his face, he drops the gun, and she even asks who sent those bastards there. They shoot toward the sound, but she used her buddy as a shield. And before they can do anything, she takes a nutmeg tea right to the mouth and another smack to the face. Slam into the wall, the guy falls back, and I doubt the artist will draw the poor guy for me. Cecilia says they don't speak the same language. Boom, finished. And now she grabs her little bread and starts walking out, wanting to know why they attacked her there. She thinks it's weird they sent weak people, but right then Natalie is behind her. The main guy is still at 1,000. He already knows it's been a trap from the start. The room where Mirrors starts to open the door, someone comes out, but face plants on the floor. She shows up asking if he finished the job. Seeing she's fine, she ignores everything and runs straight towards Cecilia's room. Knowing Cecilia has the biggest advantage against Abigail, she has to be the main target. And right now, Cecilia is dodging in her room, impressed by Natalie's speed. If this vampire really was manufactured, things are getting dangerous. Natalie bursts in like a maniac. She slashes, drooling. Cecilia ducks, telling her to stop laughing. She punches Natalie right in the mouth. The main guy and Mirror walk in, seeing Cecilia restrain the girl. Natalie asks if this is the leader-level vampire. To Cecilia, she just looks like a slightly more skilled vampire. Then someone on comms lets Natalie use her abilities. She starts laughing. Cecilia doesn't get it. Then the girl rips off her own arm. Natalie backs up. Cecilia charges, saying she can't let her escape alive, but the girl's hand moves on its own. It goes behind Cecilia. The main guy warns her to watch out. The hand starts glowing. Then boom, an explosion in the room. Next chapter, he opens his eyes, confused. He sees Cecilia in front of him, arms crossed. What's this? Mirror fell on him and he caught her. Mirror gets off, saying he at least saved Cecilia. We see that when he noticed the hand was about to explode, the main guy grabbed Cecilia by the back of her neck. Through her back, she landed on Mirror. He took the full blast. Cecilia stays quiet. Mirror watches. Then Cecilia says that's enough. More people will attack, so they should move now. Mirror tells her to be more polite since they just saved her. Cecilia just asks if they want her to kneel or something. Then she asks Soo-hyuk why he took that explosion for her. He started to explain his reasons, but she cut him off, saying it's because he's an immortal vampire. That mindset disgusted her. He saw it as a sacrifice, but she called it arrogance. She challenged him to do the same if he were human. She asked what he was even saying and doing because his words and actions didn't align. She told him she didn't need his help. Fine. She'd changed clothes and would wait outside, so they better go when ready. Mirror apologized, admitting his friend wasn't very friendly, and the main guy was mentally shaken. Since becoming a vampire, he'd really started to think immortality was normal, but Mirror slapped him, telling him to wake up and stop taking that idiot seriously. He was on this team because he'd risked himself for everyone so many times. And also, because he was still doing the mission even as a vampire. That proved his humanity was still intact. No need to worry, he was doing his best. Later that night, Cecilia said they had very little information. It was hard. How were they supposed to find these people like this? Mirror said at least now they had cartel info Diego gave them. Cecilia asked, so what? They weren't here to take down the cartel, they were here to hunt vampires, and that guy didn't seem trustworthy. The main guy said they didn't have many people to trust besides him. They'd use the info at least. And right then the phone rang. It was Diego, and the main guy was about to say the mission worked, when Diego told him to get out of Mexico now. They'd messed with someone they shouldn't have. Diego got wrecked. He said he didn't know where these monsters came from. The main guy yelled for him to hold on, but it was over, and an explosion went off. Mirror asked what happened, and he said he thought Diego was done. Something was off. These cartel people were dangerous, but they wouldn't go against the government like this, which meant the explosion was coming for them too. Probably vampire stuff. Explosions are happening everywhere. A masked man appears with the family, then it just blew up. Cecilia's shocked. They're killing civilians. It's the same kind of blast from the room earlier. The main guy looks over, and the 3 crazy girls squad arrives, saying a bishop is here, and today she'll kill everyone. Barony says Natalie's ability controls 100 syndicate members. If the bishops don't appear, all civilians die in 5 minutes. Next to her, Natalie acts like an idiot with a missing hand. Abigail yells for all bishops to show themselves. The longer they wait, the more innocents die. Someone heals Natalie's hand, and she says with Lily and Anna far away, nothing can stop her. The main guy tells Mirror to wait. It's clearly a trap. The problem is, stalling means more civilian deaths. Cecilia's already ready, saying the leader is hers. Baroness warns something's coming from the side, recognizing the blue flames, saying it's bad. They're at a disadvantage against that one, so she should be careful. Abigail's all fired up, charging and saying she's been dying to meet her. Kicks on the sword, heads are getting cut. Mirror is wiping people out, saying at least they can kill these guys before they explode, so she can save most civilians. But then she has to defend against Natalie's attack. Of course, it wasn't going to be that easy. Mirror's advantage is knowing Natalie's power exactly. She can rip off a piece of her body and then make it explode. But Mirror trips her, then pins her chest and nails her to the ground. She starts quoting Matthew 16 verse 18, basically dropping a whole psalm about building her church on this rock and the gates of Hades. Natalie is holding the sword, trying to pull it out, but then a Garanal comes down from above and she gets crushed. Natalie is split in half, and Mirror says she will send the boss to visit her soon. But the main guy is not dumb. He grabs her and runs, and the girl explodes. He says they are in a sniper's sights, and that is the one giving Natalie orders. Baroness is there with her. 50, and he knows they have to deal with her first, because she is the one commanding everyone. And to protect herself, she surrounded herself with cartel guys. The good part is if they take her out, the only one left is Abigail. We see an earlier conversation where Baroness was told Soo-hyuk would be there, and Abigail wanted him brought to her. So, Baroness knew she would have to at least eliminate the bishop to make the mission easier. The main guy says they are ahead because they eliminated Natalie, but then she starts rebuilding herself nearby. Mirror thinks it is impossible, because the Garen ult should block vampire regeneration. But Baroness explains that as long as she as the leader is alive, her friend will not die. Now the Suicide Squad can start moving again. Next chapter, the suicide explosions keep happening in the city. The main guy has to fight Natalie 1v1, and the problem is, she is getting support from Baroness far away, which also makes her immortal. He needs an opening of a few seconds just to get that woman away. Natalie's attack hits his arm, but he takes the blow and she looks puzzled. He thinks he created an opening, but she's smiling. The instant his attack pierces her arm, she grabs him and starts to glow. An explosion hits his chest, and now he's the one torn apart. He didn't expect her to disregard self-preservation so much, even after her own body just exploded. She moves to attack again, but a golden blast hits her, sending her flying. She asks if he's okay, saying this is really tough to handle. You land a fatal hit when you cut one, but her regeneration makes her multiply endlessly. This kind of 1v1 is terrible, especially for him, because he can't stop her. He knows he can't resolve it with Baroness supporting her, and unlike Mirror, he doesn't have those massive attacks that stun a target for a few seconds. It's confusing because he says that, then tells Mirror to hunt Baroness while he holds Natalie. Even Mirror says it makes no sense since he just mentioned he can't stop her, but he explains that's precisely why he'll keep her locked down there, and even if he gets blown up, he'll stay alive. He remembers Cecilia calling him disgusting for thinking that way because he's a vampire. Natalie starts moving toward Mirror, and he rushes in, punches her in the mouth, and tells Mirror to go now. So he ends up in a 2v1. At least if he gets blown up, he won't die. She's watching Suyuk choose to hold Natalie. Mirror comes straight for her, and Baroness fires, but Mirror jumps in, closes the distance, and throws a light slash. Another Natalie clone jumps in front. The explosion happens, but Mirror pushes forward, saying she can't give her time to react. She has to keep the pressure on, but now she's face to face with the sniper barrel. Mirror deflects the gun with her sword, stopping Baroness from getting played. Mirror thinks she's created the perfect chance to break their coordination, but Baroness flips back. She asks if Mirror really thinks closing the distance is enough. Baroness teleports, aiming mid-air. She says that choice was Mirror's defeat. One shot looks like it destroys the whole building, but Mirror tanks it on her arm. Yeah, Baroness has healer powers, which is why she regenerated Natalie earlier. She's taking Mirror seriously, saying this bishop isn't weak. If it weren't for Ayaka's seal, that last attack would have taken her head off. But with her and Natalie working together, they can handle it. She tells Natalie to regroup. Natalie is hiding behind a wall, regenerating all twisted. She asks what's going on. When they look back, Natalie is on the ground. The main guy is standing there with just his ribs showing. He tells Mirror he already said he's a dead man. He doesn't care if he's human or vampire. He's there for revenge. His eye shifts into that black look. We see flashbacks of Anna talking to him, Cecilia trashing him, two Natalies coming at him. He grabs them by the neck, slams both into the wall. He's smiling. He lost control. He even takes a direct hit of dark balls. On the earpiece, Mirror tells him he doesn't need to act like that. Everyone had already pulled back. He blacked out and doesn't even know what happened. Mirror apologized, explaining he had no choice but to push him to his limit. He tried to claim the operation was his idea, but then he collapsed. I really need to know what happened. Mirror told him to recover quickly because they had to leave, but an explosion happened nearby. It seemed those two retreated, but Cecilia wasn't doing well. The building next door was completely engulfed in flames, and Abigail was loving it, saying she finally felt alive. Cecilia stared her down, then jumped as spears shot from the ground, and she fired another blue flame barrage, melting Abigail's spears. The fight continued, and it looked like Cecilia got countered with a very clean cut. Abigail wasn't doing great either. She was smashed into the wall, insisting she wasn't weak. She never got close to the puddles and could still attack from a distance. She wanted to see it though, she dodged it. Damn, she unleashed a Tokyo Ghoul-like move with blood tentacles, slamming the ground, and Cecilia realized getting close was becoming harder. She tried to create distance, but she fell into a tight trap. Blood emerged from underground and Abigail celebrated, saying the bishop dropped her guard too much. Now her blood would be drunk as spoils of war. Then Mirror sliced through everything, telling Cecilia she was there. Abigail was instantly confused, asking why that long, sore woman was there and where Berenice and Natalie were. Then she saw the stomp and that pitch-black eye, and she knew it was Suyuk. How was this guy walking around with the reverse eye activated? Mirror told Abigail she made a promise to the friend Abigail killed, and she would show that bastard what happens to anyone who messes with the bishops. Abigail said she didn't remember failures. Cecilia still wanted to fight even after getting wrecked. Now it's about to be 3 against 1. Or maybe not. Abigail says they aren't the only ones with allies. Her vampire gang shows up, and she asks if they really think they'll get out alive. Mirror asks how they made so many vampires already. Cecilia tells her not to freak out. They're weak just like the ones they saw before. Then all of them suddenly start getting killed by Abigail herself. Everyone's confused, but the protagonist warns them to be careful. Abigail created a vampire blood territory around her, and she says in a blood-soaked battlefield she's unbeatable. Mirror extends her sword and says she doesn't know what kind of ability this is, but she just has to erase the blood. Her attack hits a giant flying blood bubble. Worse, it doesn't even scratch it, and the power spreads across the whole city, making a square of blood. Inside that zone, her energy is infinite. As long as she's alive, the ability doesn't disappear. So today they're fighting to the death. No idea how much time passes, but Mirror is going off, saying it doesn't matter how much she attacks, this stuff doesn't stop. She dodges again, thinking she wants to help Cecilia, but the situation is brutal. The protagonist is completely pinned down, with all kinds of things coming at him, but Mirror rushes in and saves the kid as he's falling on his own. She asks if he's okay, and he can't move. He thanks her while realizing how hard it is to fight while keeping the reverse eye up when he's this exhausted. At this pace, another attack comes, and Mirror has to block everything again. She's thinking she has to protect him while begging Cecilia to hold on, because Cecilia is getting hammered by Abigail, and Abigail is yelling, asking where her strength went. What happened? Cecilia looks down and sees she barely has anywhere to step. She needs flames to propel herself up. She charges a fiery punch. She says that guy won't escape, but attacks hit her from all sides, forcing her to retreat. She can't touch the ground and attacks keep coming from the ceiling. If she focuses too much on dodging, she can't attack. Then Abigail attacks from above with 2 spears. She asks what Cecilia thinks she's doing. Cecilia takes a double whip strike and gets slammed into the ground. She's down there trying to defend herself, but she's helpless. Mirror asks if she's okay, and she replies, yes. They need a way to counter that ability. The entire area is within that woman's attack range. Mirror says sunrise is close, but surviving until then is the problem. The protagonist sees his friend is tired from covering. Cecilia is reaching her limit fighting alone. He calls to them, saying enough, he'll get Abigail's attention and distract her while they escape. Mirror says that's illogical, asking how he'll stop her. He says he can't die anyway. He'll buy time, and that's what matters. This place is sealed and reinforced with blood, so maybe with Cecilia's power or that Garen ult, they can break out. They argue while Cecilia thinks. Then Abigail says she won't allow it. She pierces the protagonist's chest and arms. He starts losing consciousness again. When he reopens his eyes, he's pinned on spikes through his feet, unable to move. He looks to the side and sees Cecilia and Mirror are captured too. Seeing Abigail from behind, he wonders, why is he always getting saved by them? When things get serious, he's useless. He tries to break free, saying he must help them, but nothing happens. Then his blood suddenly turns golden. He begs his body to move. Meanwhile, Abigail looks down, noticing that strange light. Could he be turning into some vampire holy blood hybrid? No. Abigail instantly recognizes it. That glow is Natalie's power. The story then jumps, making it tough to follow since the protagonist wakes up again in the next chapter after another blackout. He has no idea what that blast was, but looking forward, both of them are still alive. Someone asks what he just did. Abigail demands he explain his use of that ability. He scrambles backward like a lizard, saying he needs to escape quickly, but he used too much energy, so his body won't move. Abigail, all beat up, is already right in front of him, moving in to slash him. Then Abigail says absorbing abilities proves an awakening. Finally, they can talk. She pours her blood on him, saying he's not her enemy, unlike those two. She's here to offer him something. What if he joins her and they kill Anna together? The scene switches to the desert, where hundreds of soldiers have died. Anna tells some idiot to give up, asking if she's stupid. That's when she met Abigail, who looked stylish with all that gold, saying she doesn't run from a fight. She's thrown herself into wars for years, searching for a worthy opponent, and finally, she found someone like Anna. She charges and gets sliced in half mid-air. She can't understand it because Anna didn't even move. So how did that happen? Anna says she actually started to like her. Abigail wakes up again. She's looking at her hand, confused about what happened. Didn't she just die? Anna's right there saying Abigail isn't so bad and explains she's building an organization. If Abigail joins, she'll always have the opponents she dreamed of. Time passes, and Anna says the moment hasn't come yet, and she already warned her that when the time comes, she'll give the order. Anna's attacking Abigail on the ground, saying she shouldn't have attacked with the Suicide Squad. Abigail complains that Anna herself gave the order, saying she could use all her attacks on the opponent, but Anna says not like that. From now on, Abigail will have no connection to the Suicide Squad. She better not forget her place. Back in the present, the protagonist is confused, and Abigail says if he joins her, she'll give him all the info on Anna and help him grow as a vampire. She already gathered info on both Catherine and Berenice, and together they can start studying Anna's weaknesses. On top of that, she'll help him reach full awakening and make him second in command. He just needs to keep collecting the bishop's blood like he's been doing. That's because it's the only way to block the slavery Anna has over all vampires, which is a huge amount of divine blood. He must have noticed that to kill Anna, those girls aren't going to help much. He must have noticed it's been hard to get stronger lately, and the stronger he gets, the closer to vampires he becomes. The girls with him will never understand how he lives, and right now they're only by his side because he's useful. But what happens the moment he kills Anna? He'll probably get executed with no second chance. so he should drop those women now and join Abigail as second in command. The kid just sits there, not knowing what to say. She smiles and says he looks like he needs time to think. Then she reveals that east of the Sonoran Desert is where their base is. He's confused, like, why are you telling me that? She says it's to earn his trust, and besides, that place isn't even that important. He can prove his worth if in 3 days he brings the long-haired bishop there. He asks why. What does she want to do with Cecilia there? Abigail explained her plan was to fight Cecilia and then consume her. He asked how she'd devour her. She stood, saying she wanted to keep fighting, but the sun was coming up, so he should consider her offer. Then she walked off.